Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and today I'm starting a hardcore difficulty playthrough of the Resident Evil 2 remake. I'm going to be picking the first scenario for Leon this time around, and the goal for this playthrough is to get the S+ ranking, which requires me to beat the game in under 2.5 hours. That time limit is just for the first scenario. If you were playing the second scenario, it'd actually be under 2 hours. Cutscenes do not count against your in-game time, so I can play those without it counting against my final ranking. Other than the time limit, I also cannot save more than 3 times throughout the entire game. And also, dying is not going to be a factor whenever getting the S+ ranking. I can die as much as I want as long as I meet that time requirement and that save requirement. Although I do have a personal goal of not dying throughout the entire playthrough. With that explanation all done and out of the way, let's go ahead and get started.
Look, man, I'm serious, okay? I saw this with my own eyes.
Oh, I believe you, buddy. I believe you. Just tell us a story. Tell us a story.
Okay, well, it was last Friday night. I was walking home from the bar, and this woman started coming towards me. She was staggering, you know, so I figured she was drunk.
Whoa. Okay, tell us, be honest now. How many drinks did you have?
No, man, I barely had a buzz on.
Oh, come on.
Look, just listen, all right? She got closer, and I got a good look at her. You got to see her eyes, her nose, her whole face. It looked like it was rotting.
Yeah.
She looked like a corpse, like a walking corpse, man.
Sounds like my wife.
I've never seen anything like it. I haven't been able to sleep since that night.
All right, calm down, buddy. Calm down. Just, hey, you gotta stay strong, okay? Don't give in to fear out there, right?
Yeah, well, you got that right. If you freeze up around these things, they'll sink their teeth in you. I should attack somebody.
Oh, come on. It's just getting good. I need some sleep. Oh, shit! What do I do? What am I gonna do?
No one's around? That's weird.
We're gonna finally get to control Leon, but I don't really talk during cutscenes, so there's going to be some intermittent silence here at the beginning of the game. Even though the cutscenes do not count against your in-game time, watching them several times over does eat away at my real-life time. So whenever I was capturing this gameplay, I skipped most of the cutscenes.
Hello? Anybody there? Something's not right.
I'm doing my best to add the significant cutscenes back while editing this video, but you may notice an odd transition occasionally because the cutscenes were originally skipped. If the cutscene was short and did not matter very much, I may just leave it skipped.
Stop moving.
Officer, you need help?
Stay back, sir. I got this. Freeze! I'll shoot!
I just run by the zombie, grab the key off the wall, hug the shelf on the left, and then dodge the zombie a second time as he runs by me. That went way better than it did during the long playthrough I posted. During that long playthrough, the zombie managed to grab me and bite me in the neck, and that took me down to red health, which is a little bit annoying because it takes up just a little bit more time getting out of the gas station, but in the long run, it really did not matter because you heal immediately after you leave the gas station, so any damage you take here is really inconsequential. This time around, I do manage to get out of the gas station damage-free.
Don't shoot! Get down!
You alright?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
You can thank me later, when we're safe.
Holy shit.
Come on! Get in! Hold on.
What the hell is going on?
I don't know. Hopefully they'll have some answers at the police station.
Wait, you're a cop?
Yeah, Leon Kennedy. You are?
Claire. Claire Redfield.
Live around here?
No. I'm looking for my brother. He's a cop too.
Well, it's a good thing we found each other. I don't know what to expect anymore.
Attention all citizens. Due to the citywide outbreak, you are advised to take shelter at the Raccoon City Police Station. Free food and medical supplies will be provided to everyone in need.
Oh my god, this is so unreal.
Police station's not much farther. They'll know something.
Yeah, but what if we're the only ones? What if there's no
No,
survivors?
there's survivors. It's a big city. There has to be. Looks like we're walking from here.
More like running.
Yeah, good call.
Leon, you gotta back up. What the?
Holy shit. There, get out. Get out now!
I can't!
Hold on! It's not safe!
Go on ahead! I'll meet you at the station!
I'll be there!
Time to make my way to the Raccoon City Police Station. Even though I am being forced to run around and avoid multiple zombies in the streets of Raccoon City, this part should be even easier than dodging the one zombie back in the gas station. Now at the gas station, that one zombie at least required me to run into a pretty tight window to dodge that individual, and that is something I definitely screw up occasionally. Here in the streets, there is just so much space everywhere around you that dodging all the zombies in the area really is not much of a chore, even if there are quite a few of them. So this should be a pretty stress-free jog all the way to the police station. None of these zombies end up causing me any problems as I'm running through the streets, although there is one right in front of the gate that I had to pause and wait for a moment for, and that was just to see which way the zombie would walk and which way I needed to run. Outside of just needing to be patient for a moment, that run was pretty chill. And now that we have all the initial stages of the game out of the way, we can actually start exploring the main place this game is going to be taking place, because we are now at the police station. If you did not already know where to go, you could check the computer and check out the CCTV application and see that Elliot needs some help. He needs to be saved. And that is because he is stuck behind a locked shutter with zombies closing in on him. But you do not have to check the computer to advance. You can actually just go straight to the shutter door in the entrance hall and then crawl into the east hallway. And then you can go straight to Elliot without the computer cluing you in on where to go. And to save some time, that's exactly what I am doing. Now once I am in the east hallway, I still grab the handgun ammo that's underneath the corpse in the press room, and then I get the first aid spray that's in the bathroom stall. And that first aid spray is going to be in the middle stall in the bathroom. I should not need it for a while because I'm pretty good at dodging what comes next, but it's never bad to have just in case I screw up and things go horribly wrong. After collecting all those items, it is off to go save Elliot, or at least as much of him as I can.
Open this goddamn door! I'll get you out! Please! Give me your hand. Help me! I got you. Give me your other hand. Jesus Christ.
Okay, time to get out of here with a bunch of zombies descending on me. I paused the game here for a very specific reason. There's going to be a zombie pounding on the door until it eventually breaks through. Now there are different doors throughout the entire game where this can occur, and normally whenever you run into one of those, it takes a few hits and then the zombie manages to break down the door. This door functions a little bit differently and I'm not entirely sure why. Instead of the zombie breaking in being dependent on how many times the zombie hits the door, this one just has a timer on it, and that timer keeps going even if you pause the game. So since I'm just waiting here with the game paused for a moment, whenever I unpause the game, the zombie will break through instantly and I have to run past him. Now whenever you pause the game, it does not count as in-game time. So this cuts out the amount of time I would have wasted waiting for the zombie to break through the door. Granted, that only saves me a few seconds of in-game time, but I'll take any advantage that I can. So here I go. The zombie breaks in and I run right by him and continue down the hall. A bunch of zombies break out of a closet in a little cluster. I hug the right side wall and run straight through their formation. Then I cut straight to the entrance hall shutter and get the hell out of here.
Come on. God damn it! Watch out!
You're safe. For now.
Thanks.
Marvin Browner.
Leon Kennedy. There was another off strike. I couldn't...
Here. I'm sure you did what you could, Leon.
Does anyone know what started this?
Not a clue. But honestly, all you need to know is that this place will eat you alive if you aren't careful.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to start last week, and I got a call to stay away. I wish I'd come here sooner.
You're here now, Leon. That's all that matters.
Okay, Lieutenant, I'm ready.
Hopefully you'll be able to find a way out of this station. That officer you met earlier, Elliot. He thought this secret passageway might do the trick.
This is good news. We can get you to a hospital.
No, I am not the priority here.
Lieutenant, I'm not just gonna leave you here.
I'm giving you an order, rookie. You save yourself first. I'd come with you, but I'd just slow you down. Now, you'll need this.
I can't take him.
Stop. And don't make my mistake. If you see one of those things, uniform or not, you do not hesitate. You take it out, or you run. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Alright, good to see Leon meeting Marvin in that cutscene. Since the last playthrough that I uploaded started with Claire's first scenario, I did not get to show that cutscene with Leon meeting Marvin. In that playthrough, only Claire got to meet Marvin. So yeah, it's good to finally be showing that off.
This is not how I imagined my first day.
And I got the combat knife, which allows me to open up the west side of the police station. And before I go exploring that area, I grabbed the green herb, I grabbed the handgun ammo, and I also grabbed the first aid spray. With all that in hand, I do some quick inventory management, storing away all the healing items in the box. And then finally, I get rid of the gas station key that has not been useful for a very long time. And with plenty of inventory space, I go ahead and sprint my way to the west side hallway. And inside the west hallway, I avoid the dead body with the radio and its cutscene. I then also hug the right side wall to avoid having the hanging corpse fall on me. And also sticking to that right wall allows me to have the most direct path I possibly can down the hallway. There are no real threats in here besides one zombie that eventually breaks through a window, but I am just running straight to the conference room, so that's really not going to be an issue whatsoever. And inside the conference room, I pick up some more handgun ammo, and then I run around and hop my way through the broken window to the next hallway. Once I am through the broken window, I turn around and run to the blocked off end of the hallway. At the very end, we find some more handgun ammo, and then I go back to the zombies in front of the vending machine and the one that's laying on the ground. Now I'm going to take my time taking down these zombies in this new location. It is going to be an area that's pretty heavily trafficked throughout the early portions of the game. And I don't really want to be trying to dodge all these undead fellows every time I come through here, which could be several times. So I start off with the vending machine zombie, and then I move on to the unconscious zombie that's laying on the ground. In the process, I end up spending way more ammunition than I really need to. With the vending machine zombie, I do miss a few times, which wastes some ammunition, but I also spend a bunch of extra ammo on headshots once they fall to the ground. And I'm doing that just to make sure I am not screwing up and leaving behind zombies that are still in biting shape. Now those two are the only zombies down here that I'm really concerned about on this west side first floor. Besides them though, I'm not going to be fighting anything else until I am on the second floor. I will be using the boards that I just picked up in order to barricade the window right by the staircase. That way no more zombies can break in down here on the first floor. I also picked up the green herb that was right by the staircase, and once I was in the safe room, I picked up the gunpowder and the red herb before going to the storage box to drop off pretty much everything I had just picked up. And after getting rid of everything that I just acquired, I really just want to have my gun, ammo, and the boards for the window. After getting that knocked out, I go back out to the window so I can board it up, only to realize I accidentally stored away the lumber as well. So I have to go back and get that, and that's my first real mistake so far that I have made. Fortunately, it is a really small mistake and only cost me a few seconds, like nothing more than a minute. And after a quick course correction, I grab those boards, I go back out there, I barricade the window, and now we are good to go to the second floor. And going up the stairs, I get some more ammunition off of a non-responsive corpse. That dead body will remain on the ground until later in the game unless you shoot it and aggravate it right now, which is something I will be doing here soon, but I will let the zombie sleep for the time being. Instead, I prioritize the very alert zombie walking down the stairs from the 3rd floor. These two will be the only enemies I face off against here on the 2nd and 3rd floors, at least for now. It takes me a moment and plenty of ammunition, but I do manage to take down the zombie that walked down from the 3rd floor. After that, I shoot the sleeping zombie that I picked up the ammo from. She wakes up and gets to her feet, and I thought the 10 rounds I had left over would be enough to kill, but I actually end up running out of ammo, mostly due to my aim being kind of terrible during this encounter. After running out of ammo, I run up to the 3rd floor, and I find 8 more handgun bullets before returning to finish the fight. Even though my aim was all over the place back when I just had 10 rounds, having 8 more rounds should be plenty in order to finish off that zombie. Like, I couldn't imagine that not being enough to finish the job, so fingers crossed, otherwise I may have to backtrack and kill this one later on. When I returned, I eventually got a critical head exploding shot, and the stairs have now been cleared. I started to leave and go to the 3rd floor, but I stopped when I noticed the bodies were still moving. I'm not sure what was going on there, but the zombies were just twitching. Even so, they were not any threat to me, they were just experiencing some odd involuntary movements, and I felt like pointing that out. So I make my way to the 3rd floor and leave them alone. I also skip the locker because it contains magnum ammo, which is something I'm not going to need because I'm not picking up that weapon in this playthrough. I really don't need that weapon, and it just kind of wastes time. So instead I stick to the main objective of finding the spade key on the desk, and then it is off to the west side storage room. We get the liquor appearance outside the window, but that will not be relevant for a while. In the 3rd floor storage room, I collect some more gunpowder, wooden boards, and handgun ammo. And after I find everything that I wanted, I duck into the library to have a chat with Marvin.
Leon, it's Marvin. I need you back here ASAP.
Are you okay, Marvin?
I've got something to show you. It's important.
Copy that. I'll be right there.
Good talk, Marvin. So I could just go through the library to get to Marvin, but instead I'm going to be doing some backtracking back to the staircases. I want to get back to the 1st floor and then go through the west office area. Now that I have the spade key, the office will still give me access to the entrance hall to talk to Marvin, but the reason I'm willing to take the long way around and go there is because there's also a safe in that room. Now, from my previous playthroughs, I already know the combination to that safe, and I'm going to be able to get a hip pouch out of that safe for some extra storage space. The game is intended for you to learn the combination to that safe whenever you go to the STARS office later on. But that's something I've already done plenty of times, and you can also see me doing that in the long playthrough videos. And because of all that, I already know the combination after playing the game just a bunch of times, and there's no reason to wait. We're going straight to the safe, and we're going to go ahead and expand that storage space. So the combination to the safe is going to be 9, 15, 7. Now the hip pouches give us 2 extra inventory spaces every time we find one. I usually only get this one whenever I'm doing an S+ rank playthrough, but there is another one I occasionally get if I have enough time to spare. I can't remember if I get it in this playthrough or not, but I'll make sure to point it out if I do. There is also a hip pouch in the evidence lockers that I really rarely get whenever I'm trying to get the S+ rank. It just takes way too much time and it's not really worth it. Also, it's worth mentioning that if you enter the west offices through the evidence locker hallway instead of the entrance hall, the zombie by the safe will remain unconscious the entire time and you can avoid the conflict that you could potentially have with him if you enter from the entrance hall. So yeah, by going through the evidence locker hallway, you can open that safe and never have to fight that zombie. While in the west office area, I go ahead and get the extended magazine for the Matilda handgun. It is inside of Leon's locked desk, which I already know the lock combinations for. The one on the left is going to be the combination of N as in November, E as in Echo, D as in Delta. On the right, the combination is going to be M as in Mike, R as in Romeo, G as in Golf.
There you are. Come here. Take a look.
Yes! I knew she'd make it.
Oh, you know her?
Yeah. Name's Claire. I came into town with her.
You can get to that courtyard. Through the 2nd floor. East side.
I'm on it. Thanks, Lieutenant.
And now we have the opportunity for a brief conversation with Claire before she disappears again. I actually think this is going to be the last time that we see Claire until the very end of the game. Before we go to see her though, I'm going to go ahead and get the lion medallion out of the statue in the back of the room. The symbol combination needed to get the medallion is inside the notebook that we got from Elliot before he died. We put in those symbols in the same order that we see in the notebook, and the statue gives us a prize. The order of the symbols is going to be lion, feather, bird. We get the medallion, and I'll go ahead and drop that off at the main secret passageway statue in the middle of the room. And having gotten rid of the lion medallion, there are just a couple of other items I want to get rid of or store. Really, I just want to be able to put the gunpowder in the storage box because I'm not going to need it for a pretty long time. And I want a decent amount of inventory space going into the next area. Because I am going to be picking up a decent amount of items to include a weapons upgrade, the key card to the storage locker in the evidence room, and then the round handle for the pipe that we need to be able to fix in order to get to the STARS office. Just a bunch of stuff, really. And after knocking that out, I am ready to go meet Claire. Well, kind of. I'm going to start going in that direction anyway. And while I am heading in that direction, I'm going to go ahead and open up the safe that's in the waiting room. Normally, you will find the combination to that safe in the interrogation room later in the game, but the interrogation room is entirely optional, and I am not going to be going to it in this playthrough, so I'm just going to go ahead and open up that safe. The safe combination is going to be 6, 2, 11. And inside the safe, we find the muzzle brake upgrade for the Matilda. That reduces the recoil on that weapon whenever you're firing it. And then after I have that, I use the spade key to open up the door in that same room. I'll end up opening all the doors that require the spade key just so I can get rid of it. And after opening the waiting room door with the spade key, the last door that's going to need that key is going to be the library. I also just grabbed the key card for the weapons locker in the evidence locker room because I do intend to get the shotgun in this playthrough. It's going to be super useful. And I'll grab this green herb too. But that's all the side stuff I have to do. Let's go ahead and meet up with Claire.
Hey! Leon?
Claire! Hold on! I'll be right there!
Okay!
Claire! It's so nice to see you.
How are you doing? That helicopter just came out of nowhere.
I'm in one piece.
I'm guessing you don't have a key in one of those fancy pockets?
Unfortunately, no. But how are you doing?
You know, just surviving.
That's good.
Yeah.
Any luck with your brother?
No, not yet.
Claire, don't lose hope. I'm sure we're gonna find him. Damn it. You know what that means?
Yeah. Dinner time.
Claire, I think you should go.
Don't worry about me, Leon. You take care of yourself.
Claire, you need to go. Now!
Okay, let's get through this. Both of us.
Now that Claire has left not to be seen again for the vast majority of this playthrough, and now that Marvin is non-responsive, we are going to be on our own for a while. I grab the bolt cutters, grab the handgun ammo, and grab the boards by the gate. And then it's time to return to the first bloody hallway of doom. I do make a point to put the bolt cutters in the very first inventory spot that I have, since I'll be accessing them a few times. And with them in the first spot, that means I can just button mash my way through selecting them, saving me a little bit of time. The first time I use the bolt cutters is to break the chains on the door that's preventing me from entering the bloody hallway of doom. Once those chains are gone, I go inside and I use the bolt cutters almost immediately after one more time. And the next time I use them is to break the chains on the door that's preventing me from accessing the east office. I enter and run straight to the window to board it up before another zombie can break in, and then I run to the end of the row of desks. And before the zombie that was already in the office can stumble to me, I pick up the fuse that was at the end of the row of desks. Now I need the fuse in order to open up the shutter door back to the entrance hall so I can escape there again. But before I do that, I duck into the individual office and I need to make some inventory decisions. My inventory is full, but I need the round handle. I decide to excessively waste ammunition on the zombie entering the small office, that way I can reload and get the magazine out of my inventory. Now it takes a little bit of time and quite a few gunshots, but eventually I do clear up that inventory space and I am free to grab the round handle. The funny thing is, even after using all that ammunition, the zombie that I was shooting at does not even die, it's still alive. Now a zombie did break into the east office through the door that I removed the chains from, so I decided I'm going to remove the chair from the double doors on the opposite side of the office and try escaping that way. But then other zombies were breaking down that door too. Oh, wait a minute, I did end up killing that zombie. There happens to be another zombie wearing a police uniform that looks very similar. My mistake. Fortunately, all the zombies took one row of desks, so there was an empty path for me to run to. And then I could exit through the previously chained door, but I had an idea. I needed to slow down just a little bit, so I took my time exiting the office area. And that was just to let the zombies funnel into the office so none of them would be in the hallway anymore. And then I left the east office and I could run risk-free all the way to the fuse box by the entrance hall, and then I could escape. Not exactly how I planned it, but that works for me. I am never going to be returning to that office or that hallway, so leaving all the zombies active in that area is not going to be a problem. Now I am back in the entrance hall and I need to ditch some unnecessary items before I proceed on to the conference room, the evidence locker room, and the STARS office. I end up depositing the 2 green herbs since, at this point, I'm not really worried about needing to heal. Because most of the path that I need to travel is already clear or has some pretty easily avoidable enemies. And what enemies I do need to still deal with and take out, well, I can account for them after I get the shotgun. Then I can breeze through those enemies pretty quickly. I also end up storing the boards in the storage box, but that actually ends up being a mistake. I'll point out why and where later. After finishing up at the storage box, I unlock the library door, and then I get rid of that spade key since I do not need it anymore. Then I go ahead and pick up some handgun ammunition off of the seat near that door. That's going to be pretty useful considering I wasted a bunch of handgun ammunition in the east side office. Oh, and Marvin is still alive for the time being. He is just unconscious, and we're going to let him sleep. With all that preparation out of the way, I'll go ahead and start heading back to the west side hallway. Only now it's going to have more opposition than the last time I was there. And whenever I do get into that hallway, I try to board up the window in that hallway, and that's where I realized my mistake with the boards. Because I needed them to board up just one window in that hallway, because it's pretty important later. And the reason for that is, later on, if you're playing as Leon, you need to return to this hallway one more time. Only then the zombies get replaced by a licker, and then there's one zombie that can crawl through that window if you do not board it up earlier in the game. And this is also after we get introduced to Mr.X. So you could find yourself in a situation where you're trying to sneak by the licker while trying to outrun Mr.X and have an extra zombie getting in your way all in this one area. And since I forgot the boards, I will be dealing with that later. I had to waste a combat knife that I would have liked to have held on to for the first boss fight, but I managed to make it back to the conference room damage-free. And I used the bolt cutters for the final time to open up the chain door. That is the same locked door that previously forced me to resort to crawling through the broken window. Now that I can get by the chain door, however, I can pick up the next key item. That's going to be a detonator, but it lacks power and needs a battery. I was also free to throw away the bolt cutters since they will not be used anymore. The only other item that I picked up in that room was a flash grenade, and those are always useful somewhere. I do have preferred times to use those, but even if I have to improvise, they are super useful. I ran by the evidence locker room and skipped getting the shotgun for a moment to go up to the steaming pipe room first. The reason for that is, in that room there's also a spare keyboard key, and I want that for the evidence room panel. Since I wasted the knife a moment ago, I want a replacement. For an eventual boss battle, I want at least one knife in my inventory. Ideally, I would have 3 knives, but I want at least one. The 3 knives that come to mind are the one that Marvin gives you, the one from the evidence locker, and the last one is going to be in the library. Even though the evidence locker knife requires some brief backtracking, it's not much of a time killer. You're really just going up and down one story of stairs in extra time. Plus, I have to get the shotgun from the evidence room anyway, so it's not the most inconvenient backtrack. I also did everyone a favor and sped up the footage of me solving the portable safe. That took me a little bit longer than it should have, and I don't think fast forwarding through me guessing and hitting random buttons until a pattern emerged is going to hurt the quality of this video in any way. So yeah, we're basically just breezing through that as quickly as we can, that way we can go back down to the evidence room. Okay, where did you come from? Well, alright, I guess I'll go ahead and take my time just kind of maneuvering around this zombie in the evidence locker room. I thought I killed all the zombies in this area. Maybe he's from the east office? Excuse me, west office. But yeah, I'm actually not sure where this guy came from. Also in the pipe room, there is a locker locked with a letter combination lock. The combination for that lock is going to be CAP. C-A-P. You can see that combination written on a dry erase board in the same room where we got the detonator. Also, only open the lockers that I'm opening in this video. There is one more locker that we can open in this area, but there's a dead body in there, and eventually it animates and becomes a zombie, and it's just one more zombie you have to deal with, but you do not have to deal with it if you do not open that locker. So I use the spare key at the keypad. There are 2 missing keys, one for the number 2 and one for the number 3. I used the spare key that I had to get back the number 3, and then I opened locker 103. Inside that locker is the combat knife, so that's pretty good to have. Then I made my way to the weapon locker in the back of the evidence room, and I used the key card to get the shotgun and some more shotgun shells. After I had everything that I wanted, I was free to return to the broken pipe room on the 2nd floor. Once getting there, I end up turning the round handle until the steam stops, and then I find myself with a new path. That path leads us to the other end of the shower room, and we have access to the STAR's office. Now, once we are traveling in the hallway outside of that office, we get a much closer encounter with a licker. Now, I initially thought we had to creep into the office because of that licker, but as time has gone by, I have found that that licker is required to do the animation of picking up the corpse from the ground. So you don't really have to creep around, you can just run into the office without running into any issues. The licker should not recover from that animation in time to hit you before you enter the office. So yeah, no need to creep around just yet. In the STAR's office, I find a bunch of useful items. Unlike in my long playthrough, I am not returning to this office ever again. So this is the only chance that I have to grab these items. The required item is going to be the battery, which is in the individual office, and I just immediately combine it with the detonator. And once it is there, we have a power source for the detonator again, and we get to use it in just a moment. The other items I pick up in the STAR's office are going to be the shotgun shells, a flash grenade, high-grade gunpowder, a first aid spray, and a red herb. All of these items are going to see usage, and I fortunately had just enough storage space for all of them. I am not sure if I planned it that way or if that was an accident, but either way it works out pretty well. The next stop is going to be the 3rd floor storage room that connects to the library. There is a barricade inside of that storage room, and that's going to separate Leon from the next statue, which should be the Maiden statue. And we need to get to that statue in order to get the next medallion. Now on that barricade there is a block of C4, and suddenly we find ourselves with a functioning detonator, so we're in a good position. We just need to use that combination to clear a path and get to the statue. And whenever I do set up that detonator and activate it, we have a 10-second amount of time before it blows up, and I just use the library door trick, holding the door open so the bookcase cannot get knocked over by the explosion. By doing that, we have a much easier way of escaping into the library because we do not have to move that bookcase. So after the path was cleared, I ran up to the Maiden statue and I put in the symbol pattern from Elliot's notebook. Now the symbols on that statue are damaged, so it may take a little bit of trial and error to solve it. But once you do, you get the next medallion and we're good to leave the storage room. The explosion did lure a licker to that room, which is where the flash grenade really becomes handy. Lickers may be blind, but they can still hear, and the detonation disorients them enough for me to run away to safety. The flash grenade should also stun the zombie that falls from the ceiling and is crawling on the ground, so one less thing to worry about. And after that thrilling escape, I break out the shotgun in the library and start taking out all of the zombies to make the library safe for my eventual chase scene from Mr.X. I do not want any zombies getting in the way in this room. Now the zombies by themselves are not that much of an issue. But whenever you start introducing Mr.X into the equation, they can be a bit of a problem. They can get in my way just enough for Mr.X to kill me, and that is what I am trying to prevent. As you can probably tell, I am being very generous with the amount of shotgun shells I am using per zombie. Going the extra mile to shoot them in the head, probably way more than I need to because they're probably already dead, but I'm really looking for the head explosion to guarantee that they are dead and they are not going to get up later on and cause me some problems. so this may be a little bit wasteful, but I do want my peace of mind here. I initially thought that I had an inventory issue whenever trying to pick up the combat knife in the library, and that was going to prevent me from getting both that combat knife and the unicorn medallion. But I actually don't have an inventory issue. That was a mistake. Fortunately, I catch on to that pretty quickly, and I end up combining my gunpowders, which gives me shotgun shells, and I can combine the 2 different shotgun shells together, giving me 2 more inventory spots. Just enough for those last items. Though I immediately went back to the library only to discover that somewhere along the line a zombie had either gotten up, broken down a door from somewhere else in the library, just kind of appeared out of nowhere really, because I thought I got all of them, but well, here he is. But yeah, I take my time, make sure he has a head explosion from the shotgun shells, and then I move on to get the items that I needed. And once I figured all of that out, I went ahead and grabbed the combat knife and I went on to solve the unicorn statue puzzle. Oh, and that symbol pattern is going to be fish, scorpion, water vase. With all of that acquired, I have all of the medallions finally. That means I can return to the goddess statue in the entrance hall where I am able to open up a secret passageway with those 3 medallions. And when I get to do that, that means we are finally free to leave this part of the police station for a while, although we will be returning. And that also means I'm going to be approaching the very first boss battle of the game. Ideally, I would have at least 3 knives for this fight, but I have 2 and that's going to be good enough. The really important thing is that you have plenty of healing items, because I'm not saving before this fight. In fact, we're still a good ways away from the first save of the game.
So it goes underground. Huh. That's it. That's our way out. Lieutenant Branna! Marvin! It's time to go. Hey, Marvin. We need to get you to a hospital right now.
No, save yourself.
Come on, I've got you.
Go!
Look, we can still make it out of here together. Just give me...
It's too late. I tried, Leon. But I couldn't stop it. We can't let this thing spread. It's on you now. Just go.
I understand. I won't let you down, Marvin.
But yeah, to follow up on my previous thought, I am not going to be saving before williambirkin version 1. I'm actually not going to be saving for a pretty long time. The first saving spot that I usually try to shoot for is whenever we get into the sewers. So after the Alligator and after Ada's segment of the game. So yeah, I have a pretty long ways to go without dying, so fingers crossed that works out for us. And the reason for waiting that long is because you can only save 3 times and still get the S+ rank. And I'd like to have those saves available for the more challenging aspects of the game later on. On the downside, that does mean running through the vast majority of the game without saving a single time, because that's well over halfway through the game, I think. But I would much rather have the saves there than early on when it really does not matter. And I do think that williambirkin version 1 is consistent enough to where it really does not warrant needing to save before him. Speaking of which, we can now hear williambirkin screaming above us in this little industrial area, so it's almost time for the boss fight to start. I'm just going to run all the way to the end of the hallway, and then we're going to find a shelf that has been knocked over. We're going to lift it up and try to advance past it, and then we're going to find ourselves fighting williambirkin version 1. Or at least we will if I actually hold down the X button instead of just pressing it. One moment. Don't mind that weird cut there. Like I mentioned earlier, I am editing in the cutscenes since I was skipping them when I was actually doing the playthrough. This is one of the cutscenes that does not have a great transition point at the very end that I can just kind of seamlessly put into this final product, so it ends up looking a little choppy, but that's fine. At least it is pretty brief. Now going into this fight, I was mostly going to be relying on the combat knives to do damage to William. It seems to be a little bit counterintuitive at times to be running into the big boss with just a knife for melee damage, but that genuinely seems like the most consistent way for me to get through this boss battle without wasting most of my ammunition. So with 2 knives, 3 first aid sprays, and a handgun with 23 bullets just in case I run out of knives and my health gets a little bit too low, this should be plenty to win this first encounter against William Birkin. Whenever using the knives, I try to aim my slashes at the eye in his arm, and I am also looking for the orange blood as an indication that I am landing the eye strikes. This seems to do the most damage and occasionally stuns him, but even if you are just getting red blood from body strikes, William is still taking damage, so that's no big deal. Just keep hacking away at him and then heal whenever you need to, and try not to sacrifice your knives for defensive purposes unless they are close to breaking. And if you find yourself running out of healing items, don't worry, there are plenty of healing items around the arena if you need them. There is also some extra handgun ammunition around here if you really start to get desperate. And there's also one hand grenade down here, but I'm really going to be trying to avoid using that until a very specific part of the game. Honestly, if I end up using the hand grenade against William Birkin, I may as well reset because it completely screws up my plan for later on. And at this point, I'm really not sure where William Birkin is. I know sometimes if he starts to take a little bit too much damage and you get too much separation from him, like if you're not right up on him stabbing him, he will occasionally climb up in the industrial area and then jump down at you, but I don't know if that's what's happening here or not. In any case, while I'm waiting on William Birkin to show back up, I'm just picking up items from all around the arena, picking up that handgun ammunition, the healing items, and that hand grenade I mentioned earlier. And okay, awesome. William Birkin decided he still wanted to be part of this fight, and he finally decided to show up. Now I just need to keep running from him so I get a little bit more separation, and then once I feel like I have enough, I will turn around and start shooting at William's eye, trying to hit it, but really just trying to hit him in general. It really should not be too much longer now.
Somebody's watching me.
And alright, it is time to move on to the police station part 2. There's everything in the police station prior to William Birkin, and then there's everything in the police station after him. That's usually how I divide up everything I need to do in that location. You have a lot more of a set path whenever you are first in the police station. There's not really a whole lot you can do, but once you get to the part 2 is whenever you can pretty much open everything in the police station minus 2 hidden items, but everything else becomes available to you. Then you start meeting the new side characters as well, like Ada. And then you also start getting introduced to the new threats, like the one we just fought, William Birkin, and the new one that we're going to be seeing here momentarily, Mr.X. And yeah, as far as progression goes, trying to get the S+ rank in this game, for Leon Scenario 1, anytime I'm under 40 minutes beating William Birkin, I'm usually very happy and we're on path. Now, I don't know exactly how much time I have been using up to this point because I have not paused the game in a while, but considering that cutscenes do not count against your in-game time, and, well, actually considering that I skipped them in real time anyway, we are under 40 minutes, so we are definitely on track. In retrospect, I should probably have like milestones or goals that I want to shoot for whenever trying to hit certain points in the game so I can kind of see how far under or how far over those times I am, but I really have not set that up. This is really about the only one that comes to mind. It's like this in the very end of the game, because I know exactly where I need to be at the end of the game in order to be able to beat the remainder of the game in 15 minutes. Those are like the only 2 examples that come to mind. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and skip that cutscene because it's just Leon peeking out of the manhole, and that's really not all that interesting. Although the next cutscene will be interesting and will not be skipped.
Damn. Need a key card. You gotta be kidding me. Get off of me! Who is that?
Stay sharp. Lower it. FBI.
Sorry. Thank you. For your help.
Surprised you made it this far.
FBI, huh? What's going on here?
Sorry, that information's classified.
Where you going?
Do yourself a favor. Stop asking questions and get the hell out of here.
Hey! I'm not done talking to you!
Alright, with climbing out of the manhole, meeting Ada, and the cutscene that's about to happen, we are getting rapid-fire cutscenes. So there's really not too much to say here. I'm just going to go ahead and inform you that there's going to be another cutscene here momentarily, but that should be the last one for a little while. After that, we are leaving the parking garage and returning to the police station for a scavenger hunt.
Hello?
Hey,
I don't believe it. A real human. Hello, human.
you been here long?
Long enough. Are we the last ones alive?
No, there's a few of us.
Huh. That's good news, I guess.
Yeah.
That's of course Irons sent you.
Irons? You mean Chief Irons? Is he still around?
Who cares? Hopefully he's somebody's dinner by now.
What do you mean by that?
He's the bastard that locked me in here.
I'm sure he had a good reason.
He did. I was about to blow the whistle on his dirty ass. I'd have done the same thing to him, I guess. Hey, I'll make you a deal. Unlock this cell and I'll give you this. There's no other way out of that parking garage, believe me.
Sorry, I can't do that. I have to talk to the chief first.
Look, we're both prisoners in this station. So either we play nice and help each other out, or... Shit. It's coming.
What? What's coming?
Come on, don't be an asshole. Okay, you need this. Just get me the fuck out of here.
Oh my God. Who is that?
It's just me. So you can put that thing away.
I don't even know what happened. It just happened so quick.
I told you to get out of here. You wouldn't want to end up like Ben, would you?
You knew him?
He was an informant. Had information of use to my investigation.
So what he said was true? Hey, you can't keep walking away from me! I don't even know your name. I'm Leonskennedy.
Find a way out, Leon. Before it's too late. Then we'll talk. Name's Ada.
Well, I guess the deal's on.
Time to commence the scavenger hunt. I can pick up the crank next to the jail cell that Ben died in, courtesy of the vice grip hand of Mr.X. Using that, I can set off the chain of events needed to get the electrical panel parts required to open Ben's cell. Then I'll be able to get out of the parking garage courtesy of the parking garage badge, and actually I'll be getting out of the police station entirely at that point. So we are done with the jail cells for a while, and it is time to break back into the police station. Specifically, we want to get to the other side of the shuttered door where Elliot was torn in half. To get there, we need to go to the opposite side of the parking garage. And there is going to be a door there that leads into a very dark dog kennel and firing range hallway. My first stop, once I am in that dark hallway, is going to be the firing range. There are going to be 2 items in there that I want. The first is going to be a storage box with a broken car key in it, and that is going to be what we need to get the next upgrade for the Matilda. Also, actually downrange in the firing range, there are some shotgun shells that I cannot pass up on. There are some inactive zombies laying on the ground in that area, They will stay inactive until you restore power to the area, so that is the safest time that you can get that ammunition. Now, the inactive zombies are not the only threats that come alive after restoring the power. In fact, I'm about to make a time-wasting mistake regarding dancing around those extra threats. I'll point out what exactly I mean when I get to it, but the key thing is, I should be going to get the Matilda upgrade right now, but instead I'm heading in the opposite direction. So the other threat that appears when we restore power to the area, that's going to be the zombie dogs. We can see the zombie dogs in their kennels, and the locked up dogs are not necessarily going to be the ones that appear later on. In fact, I believe you can kill all the locked up dogs, and then more dogs just show up to attack you once the lights are on. So when it comes to my mistake, I get as far as the morgue, picking up the red herb and the flash grenade before I realize that mistake. It hit me right after I opened the shutter door, and right after I picked up the green herb and when I went to combine it with the red herb. Whenever I was in my inventory, I happened to see that I still had the storage box. I had not opened it to get the key, and I had not used the key whatsoever. And because of that, I realized I never went back to the parking garage to get the Matilda upgrade, and if I was going to get it, I needed to go back for it before turning on the power. The reason for that is going to be the zombie dogs. They do not spawn until the power is turned back on. And once they show up, I have to run for my life all the way to the police station or I'm going to get mauled. I could go to the parking garage while being chased by the zombie dogs, but that is not an ideal situation. And if I did that, I would still have to run through the dogs again to get to the police station from the parking garage. And on top of that, it's not like the zombie dogs are just going to be spawning in that hallway. They also appear in the parking garage too. So if I do turn on the power and decide I want to go to the parking garage for that upgrade, it will be a constant barrage of zombie dogs the entire time. I would rather just burn a little bit of time to get the upgrade without the threat of the zombie dogs and then backtrack all the way to the power panel to restore the power to the area. It is a waste of time, but I want the upgrade. Now, there is definitely an argument to be made that the upgrade is not worth it. It is going to be a stock upgrade specifically, and it adds a 3-round burst to the handgun. The reason it may not be worth it is because a person may want more control over the shots they fire, especially if they are already really good at getting headshots. The burst fire could result in wasting some unnecessary ammunition. The other downside to the stock upgrade is that it changes the handgun from a weapon that takes up just 1 inventory spot to a weapon that takes up 2 spots. I personally want the burst fire and I am willing to sacrifice the inventory space, so yeah, I am fine with that exchange. But this could easily be skipped to save time, and it may actually be preferred depending on the kind of player you are. But I have finished my backtracking and now I can get back to the main objective. I'm still getting all the way back, but once I am back in the generator room, there are 2 things I need to do. I need to pick up the electrical panel part, the first of 2 that are hidden throughout the police station for Leon. And after I have that in my inventory, I need to follow the fence line in the generator room until I find some switches on the wall, and those switches can restore power to the area. I always forget which switches I need to flip, so I'm just guessing until I get it right. And I think the switches may change depending on your character or the scenario, but I mean, there are only 4 options, so it's not going to take you too long. It's usually a pretty fast process. And once I do have power restored to the kennel area, it is time for the first dog run to begin. To get out of the generator room, I will usually hug the fence line to avoid the dogs. In the hall, I hug the wall for the dog kennel room to avoid the dog that jumps over the barricade. That dog is coming up right here. Alright, so far so good. In the dog kennel room, I usually run on the left side of the floor drain and drastically cut to the right to avoid the dog and go out the door, but I time it wrong in this run. So I get bit in the back. In the last stretch of hallway, I continue to hug the dog kennel wall. If I do that, a zombie dog should come around the corner and run right by me. I then run on the right side of the hall until the very end, right past the firing range door, then I cut left to avoid a dog lunging at me, and then I exit the door. In this case, almost everything went right, with the exception of in the dog kennel room. I was a little bit slow to cut to the right, and I got bit because of it, but that's not too bad. I'm in orange cautious health, but I can live with that. Normally I can get through this damage list, but still, that's not bad. It's definitely way better than my long playthrough. I almost died a couple of times because of this. I don't know what it was for that playthrough specifically, but pretty much everything that could have went wrong did against those dogs, with the exception of actually dying. So when comparing those 2 different playthroughs, I will definitely take this one. And I am now firmly back in the police station. I'm just going to go ahead and pick up some items from this break room. And among the items I am picking up is going to be a blue herb, some handgun ammo, a fuse, And I think there is some Magnum ammo in here as well, although I am not going to be picking that up because I'm not getting the Magnum as a weapon, so getting the ammunition would be kind of pointless. But yeah, just a quick bit of inventory management since there are some useful items in the waiting room. Or not the waiting room, the break room. And there's also some high-grade gunpowder in the break room as well, and outside of the break room is going to be some shotgun shells. I'll go ahead and grab those and then go on to the hallway. And then we're going to head on out to the hallway to the shutter door where there's going to be 3 zombies chomping down on the deceased body of Elliot, specifically his lower half. And that hallway is going to be pretty important. I need to take out everything in that hallway so it's completely cleared out, and then I need to take out Elliot himself because his upper half is animated on the other side of that shutter door. And I need to take whatever boards I have and board up as many of the windows in that hallway as possible. So it's kind of getting the library treatment where I want to clear it out as much as I can to make sure I can run through there with no resistance later on. And this is largely just because I really want to own that hallway whenever it comes time to run back through there and then go through the dog run again, then get to the jail cells. Because whenever you return, you're being chased by Mr. X, and then zombies will break through the windows at that point. And if you left a bunch of zombies in there, you're going to be trying to run through them while trying to outrun Mr. X. You're probably going to end up taking some damage if you're unlucky, which is not too unlikely of a scenario. And then you still have to run through the dogs in order to get back to the jail cells. And then whenever you get into the jail cells and do that puzzle, the jail cells are going to open. You have the jailbreak scenario, and you have to run through all those zombies again. Oh yeah, and Mr. X catches up to you and you have to run by him again. So yeah, you want things to go smoothly in that hallway. It's way too soon to be taking damage. I'm clearing it all out so I don't have to worry about it. It is just a bad place to kind of get stuck taking damage before running through everything else that's probably also going to damage you, so I do recommend just clearing out the area. And do I have enough ammo to finish this? Apparently I do. When you get a critical hit, I will take that. So yeah, that took up, I had over 40 rounds of handgun ammunition. It took up all of it, taking out just 3 zombies. I have nothing left, but that's okay. Those are really the only ones I need to take out for a long time. In fact, I think I can run through this entire next part without killing any zombies because I'm mostly going to be running from Mr. X anyway. With the exception of Elliot's upper half, of course, which I'm just going to stab to death because, I mean, he's crawling on the ground and really does not offer much of a threat. Although Elliot is hanging in there a lot more than I thought he would. This is taking way more stabs and slashes than I would have expected. Now that I am done with Elliot, I am going right back to the bloody hallway of doom for a moment. I'm going to be taking the fire escape up to the 2nd floor, though. That lets me avoid all the zombies I left in the East Office area, and also it's a shorter route, so it's definitely the way to go. It's way faster. My approach here is going to be way different than it was for the long playthrough, because I am getting straight to the point this time. I am not going to be running around the building, prepping a bunch, and collecting a lot of items. It's just way too much of a waste of time. No, in this S+ run, I am here for one purpose only, and that is to get the 2nd electrical panel part, and then I am leaving. To start off, I went ahead and used the crank for the final time to open this shutter door, which opens up this entire side of the police station building. After I'm done with the crank, I throw it away because I do not need it anymore. So I will be going to the east side 3rd floor storage room to pick up the large gear, which is a key item that I'm going to be needing to get that panel part. I will pick up the handgun ammo, the shotgun shells, and the flash grenade that are along the way because I don't have to really backtrack or go out of my way for them. And then I am going to go to the roof where the ladder will break on Leon, stranding him on the roof, with only really 2 options to go to. One of which is going to be a storage room where we can find the club key. And then the next option is going to be the hallway where the helicopter is, and that's where we eventually also see Mr. X and he makes his appearance. I also go ahead and pick up a blue herb that was in the attic area that I was going into to get the big gear because I have to walk right by it to get the big gear, so why not? And plus, having a blue herb means I have another opportunity at getting a green-red-blue combination, which is always great for full heal and damage protection and poison immunity, which, yeah, of course, that's going to be super important later on. Now, whenever it comes to the roof, I will not be killing any zombies up here. I picked up a flash grenade. I intend to use it up here. What I will do is do all the preparation for setting up the water to be used on the helicopter, and then I'll go into the storage room area to try and get the club key, which the zombies are going to break through the door of that storage room area. There's going to be 2 of them. And as soon as that door busts open, I just throw the flash grenade. It pops off, blinds them, and I run in there and grab the key and run out. Normally they've recovered by the time you run out, but even so, you're running right by them with their backs turned to you, so they are really slow to react and you can easily just get by them, even if they are lunging at you. And I think they start ignoring you the moment you go up the stairs, so it's not like you have to worry about them whenever you go to encounter Mr.X, so killing them is kind of a waste of ammunition, as long as you are willing to spare that flash grenade, which I definitely was in this case. And before I dash out there with the zombies to run by them one final time, I need to deposit a couple of items just to make some inventory space for what I am going to be collecting next. Which I need to still pick up the club key, so that's going to be in my inventory. But then I need to run all the way across the building after encountering Mr.X to go all the way to where the jack handle is, which is behind a door that's locked with the requirement for the club key. And also in that same room with the jack handle, we're going to find a grenade, and I definitely want that for the jailbreak scene, so I have to collect that. And then once I have the jack handle, I have to navigate my way all the way up to the library, use the jack handle there to complete the path I'm going to need to do to get to the 3rd floor where I can access the clock tower. And then we do the gear puzzle, and after we get done with the gear puzzle, we pick up the final electrical panel part. Now, the moment I get to the gear puzzle part is when I stop caring about my inventory space, because we're going to be ditching a lot of stuff to include the big gear, which takes up 2 inventory spaces. So once you're there, you're going to be getting rid of so much stuff, it really doesn't matter. But everything up to that point needs to be a little bit exact. I don't want to have too much stuff in my inventory that's slowing me down and prevents me from being able to grab what I need. Because the last thing I want is to have to backtrack to a storage box. 1, it's just a waste of time, and 2, I'm going to have Mr.X chasing me, and I really don't want to get punched in the head as much as I did back in my long playthrough. And speaking of Mr.X wanting to punch me in the head, the man of the hour has arrived, and he's chasing me, and yes, he wants to punch me in the head again. So everything that happens from this point forward in the police station is going to be done with Mr.X lingering not that far behind. Like I mentioned a moment ago, the very first stop we need to do is go all the way to where I need to use the club key, which is going to be in the hallway on the west side of the building where I said I made a mistake earlier by not boarding up the window. Finally, the time has come to see whether or not that mistake was a major one or if it's going to be a minor one. And as just a reminder, since a little bit of time has gone by since I talked about it, I forgot to board up the window in that hallway, and I said that was going to be important because all the zombies in that hallway eventually get replaced by a licker. So the game is encouraging you at that point to not rush through the hallway. Problem is, whenever you go by that window, a zombie will crawl through that window and try to get in your way at some point, which is very likely because you're probably going to need to backtrack through his path at some point. So you're going to either run by him or shoot at him or something like that. There are other ways you can get around him, and I'm going to be exploiting one of those whenever I get to that point, but yeah, having him around just increases the likelihood that you are going to alert the licker. And this could have all been avoided had I just boarded up the window the first time I was there or the second time I was there, since Leon has to pass it multiple times. So keeping my mistake in mind, the plan here is going to be to not try sneaking by the licker. It's pointless. Instead, I'm going to take my chances as I'm running away from Mr.X to also try running by the licker and trying to dodge his attacks. We're going to see how that goes, because sometimes it goes great, other times it goes absolutely horribly. It is one of the reasons why I held onto the combat knife until I picked up the jack handle and the hand grenade, and I just need to make inventory space. I really wanted to be able to defend myself if the licker happened to pounce and pin me down. Though I used the layout of that room in order to run around it and avoid the zombie, then I got to the door, I threw a flash grenade into the hallway so I could hopefully stun Mr.X and the licker and the zombie behind me and be able to get out of that hallway very damage-free and then get back to the entrance hall. That all goes great with the exception of stunning Mr.X. It turns out he was not in that hallway. It turns out he was actually waiting for me back at the entrance hall, so I still have to get by him. Which is something that goes surprisingly well because I can just use the benches in the waiting room to run around him because he has to pick a side either going to my left or my right, and then I just go the opposite direction, and hey, look, there's the entrance hall and I'm off to the library. That went really, really well, despite the fact that it seemed like I was going to screw up there somewhere, but I'm sure I'm going to screw up somewhere else instead, don't worry. Okay, time to navigate the library, which I really wish I had a little bit more of a lead on Mr.X, but we're going to have to make it work. So I go in there, I put the jack handle on the jack, and I lower the bookcase, then I slide the bookcase whenever I have the opportunity into a position where it becomes an improvised walkway. That way I can walk on top of it. Now I did not feel I had enough time to lower the bookcase with the jack and then also move all the bookcases to the side to make that walkway. So after lowering the bookcase with the jack, I elect to climb up the ladder to the second portion of the library and try to get Mr.X to follow me and create more distance between him, me, and the bookcase. That way I could move all the bookcases into position where they become a walkway before he can get to me a second time, and then I can get through this whole situation damage-free. So I mentioned I was probably going to screw something up. Well, here is where it happens. I do all of this fairly well. I thought I had dodged Mr. X in the library to a pretty good extent. I went up the ladder, he went up the ladder after me, and then I ran all the way around the room back to the bookcases. The thing is, and I guess it's because I have not seen this before, I didn't account for it, apparently Mr. X can just jump down the ladder, and he does that to me, and I do not notice it while I am moving the bookcases, so he ends up right beside me as I'm moving the bookcases, and I am completely unprepared for it, and yet again Leon gets punched in the head. Multiple times because I have to heal myself, and then he does it again. Which leaves me without any healing items, and then I'm also in red critical health. Any hit will kill me at this point. So it is going to take a little bit of luck to get through this next part of the game, but I just so happen to have possibly my luckiest moment of this entire playthrough coming up in just a moment related to my health and dodging Mr. X. So stay tuned for that. And now we find ourselves in the Clocktower where we have to do the gear exchange puzzle. Now to do this, we have to use the big gear in the very first section of this room. And then once it gets done turning and lowering the staircase, we need to grab the big gear again because we are not done with it. What we then need to do is run all the way to the very top of the staircase, all the way as high as we can go. There's going to be another contraption with a small gear that we need to take out of that machine. And then we need to replace it with the big gear. And once we have the small gear, we need to take it back downstairs and place it in the machine that's the closest to the staircase. And once we do that, the clock tower will activate, the bell will ring, and it will fall and knock the electrical panel apart to the ground, and yeah, that's pretty much everything that we need to do for this section, and we have both our panel parts. The only other thing that I want to grab from this location is going to be a large-size standard gunpowder, which is through a door in the back that leads into a hallway that eventually is blocked off, and we can find the gunpowder there. So those are all the details about what I am doing in this section. Now, going back to what I said about me approaching the luckiest part of this whole playthrough. To establish why it's eventually going to be really lucky, I should explain something in the library. There is a section of the library walkway where if you run on top of it, it will break and you will fall to the first floor. That's the whole reason why we have to move the bookshelves in the first place, to give us a walkway we can walk on. Now, whenever I exit this clock tower, eventually I'm going to have to figure out where Mr. X is and make sure I'm not about to run right into him. That's a little bit easier said than done because you can hear his music and you can hear his footsteps, so it doesn't necessarily tell you exactly where he is. Now, one of the ways I get around this, if he is right behind me up here on this third floor, whenever I go back into the library, say maybe he's chasing behind me and I'm entering the library, I'll immediately cut to the left to that part of the walkway, it'll break, I'll fall to the first floor. It does a couple of things for me. The first thing is that Leon cannot be hit whenever he's in that falling animation, so it kind of saves us a little bit of trouble with the possibility of getting damaged because I'm invincible for a brief period of time. Besides that, though, it's just faster to fall down to the first floor that way as opposed to using the staircase or the ladder. So it's just a great way of getting some distance away from Mr. X and also ensuring that I cannot be hit during that falling animation. So keep that in mind, and I'll point out exactly why I was so lucky in this playthrough in just a moment. So I hear Mr. X's footsteps and music, so I have to make a decision, and I decide I'm going to go ahead and cut left and fall to that first floor. That's a little bit risky because I'm just guessing. I don't know where Mr. X is in the library. I could be falling to the first floor and he's going to be like right in front of me. But it turns out I chose very correctly, because had I have walked to the bookcases I was using previously, that's exactly where Mr. X was. I did not see him, so I did not know that until I was reviewing this footage. But he is right there, waiting for me to go that direction as soon as I go through the door, and of course he's going to give me the Mr. X punch of doom. And with this low of health, it would have killed me. So I kind of had a 50-50 shot of guessing right on where Mr. X was. I was either going to go to the left and fall to the first floor and be safe, or I was going to run into him by going to the right. And I had no idea how close I was to death until I reviewed this for the video editing process. I'll go ahead and throw up a picture of Leon going through the door, by the way, because you can just barely see Mr. X's arm in the frame. And whenever I was reviewing the footage, that was the only moment I could tell where Mr. X was. This entire playthrough basically came down to run left and you'll survive, or run right and you're going to die. And I had no idea which one was going to be the right decision until it was already over. In fact, over for a long time, considering I'm just now realizing how close to death I actually was. But alright, explaining exactly how I got lucky in this playthrough avoiding Mr. X also allowed me the time to stall my way through a bunch of inventory management, which kind of drags on at times, so hopefully that explanation was way more interesting than seeing me manage items in a storage box. So at this point, I'm just preparing the last little details I have to have before I go over to the jail cells and try to break into the cell that Ben died in. I have both the panel parts, I make sure they're in my inventory, and I go ahead and take them out of the boxes to try and save myself some time, although I may have actually wasted time doing that considering I could have just done it whenever trying to examine my items to place into the panel later on. Not a big deal, I just lose a few seconds. The big thing was I wanted to make sure I was at full health, and I wanted to make sure I had the flash grenade and the hand grenade. I need at least one of each for my plan to work. If I had a bunch of spare shotgun shells, then I would definitely be using that as well because those become super handy whenever the jailbreak begins here in a moment. But instead I'm going to try and get through this with just the Matilda. Well, the Matilda in addition to the grenades. I do still have the shotgun on me just in case I have to resort to that, but hopefully I will not have to. That is completely doable, although it has gone wrong on several occasions, so we will see exactly how well or bad it goes this time. So the goal here is to go through the hallway where we saw Ellie get cut in half, which should be completely safe after we cleared that area earlier. There's only one window that was not boarded up, and that zombie breaks in after you've already ran by that window, so it's not really going to be much of a threat. So we're just going to run through that hallway, and then we're going to enter the dog run part 2. Which went pretty well for me the first time. I only got bit once and got down into orange health. Ideally, I won't get hit at all and I can go into the jailbreak situation with a full amount of green health, but we will see exactly what happens. So far so good. I just tried to hug the left side of this barrier and go through the door, and things went very, very well. No damage. That's about as good as it can get. I tried to use the pillars and objects to have Leon run against those, and that seems to do the trick to keep a little bit of space between the dogs. They like to run more in the middle. Not always, of course, but hey, it worked out this time. And we have returned all the way to Ben's jail cell, and now it's time to do the panel part puzzle, which is completely different depending on the scenario and the character, so I really don't bother trying to memorize these too much. Like, I kind of have an idea of where I need to go with these connection points, but I am kind of just guessing on the fly. Like, there are certain pieces where I know exactly which direction they need to go in, but overall, I'm kind of just doing it until everything lines up. I'm, like I said, just kind of guessing. But eventually it works out. We don't waste too much time here, probably just a minute or two, and then we're good to proceed on with the rest of the playthrough.
Huh?
That doesn't explain the rumors about the orphanage. I just find it way too coincidental Umbrella's one of the benefactors.
You told me this interview was about the new scholarship Umbrella set up.
Come on, Annette. Nobody cares about that. They want to know about the G virus.
Where did you hear about this?
And that big fucking sinkhole in the city, which, by the way, rumor has it goes straight to your underground lab. Now, are you going to talk to me, or are you going to...
This interview's over.
Bitch.
So now it's time for the jailbreak scene, which will activate once we progress back down the jail cell hallway far enough. You see I'm taking my time, catching my breath, and really thinking about how I'm going to do this and making sure I have everything equipped that I want to have equipped. So the way that I approach this is I like to run down there as soon as the cell's open and throw the hand grenade into a group of these zombies. That way it takes out most of them. And then I will follow it up by throwing the flash grenade. That way it stuns anyone left over. Preferably also Mr.X if he were to show up just in time for the explosion, but sometimes it does not work out that way. That's why I have the healing items. And crap, okay, well, so much for the flash grenade. I guess we're just gonna have to run for it. And here is when Mr.X shows up. And Mr.X throws me. It's not as bad as being punched, but I get bit and I'm in red health. Please don't punch me before I heal. Just using the green herb. And alright, cool. Now just run for my life and... perfect. We are out of here, full heal, and now we're on to the next part of the game.
This is getting old. Saving your ass, that's twice.
I didn't realize you were keeping score.
Look, this isn't a game.
You gotta kill me.
Nothing dies down here. take it you have the key card.
Yeah, and this. I was hoping you could explain what's on it.
Maybe. After I hear it. Let's get out of here.
And all right, time to get out of the parking garage, and whenever we open the gate, there is going to be a green herb immediately to the right on the other side of that gate, so if you need it, go ahead and pick that up. And finally, we are leaving the Raccoon City Police Department building. We're heading out to the streets of the city, and we're going to be heading straight for Kendo's gun shop. Now, I'm running straight there. And if you saw my long playthrough and you're comparing the two, you might notice that Ada does not say as much or wander off as much if you run directly to Kendo's gun shop. I don't know exactly what the mechanic is for that, but if you run straight to the gun shop, she will also prioritize going there as well. If you take your time and walk alongside her, she'll say a lot more stuff and take a little bit more time, just leisurely going to that location. So if you're trying to get through this part as fast as possible, just run straight to the gun shop. Maybe there's even a faster way of getting through this, I'm not sure, but that's what I always do, and it seems to be a little bit faster. Maybe it's my imagination or not remembering things correctly, but we just saw her going a little bit up-tempo and jogging over here, so yeah, like I said, it kind of seems like her sense of urgency is a little bit higher, and then she goes into checking out the road being broken down and under construction, and then she goes into unlocking the door for Kendo's gun shop, just lock-picking that lock. And once we are within Kendo's gun shop, we pick up a few key items, most importantly being an upgrade for our shotgun, but then also a little bit of ammunition, and also a hand grenade. But other than that, we do not waste too much time within the shop. We just pick up what we need, and then we run around the corner to kick off the cutscene where we get to meet Kendo, see what his deal is for the brief amount of time he is in this game. Speaking of which, I now have everything that I need from the gun shop, so let's go ahead and check out that cutscene.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
I said don't move.
I'm just passing through. I'm gonna ask you to lower that weapon.
I tell you what, you gotta turn around and go right back out the way you came in.
I think your daughter needs help, sir.
Don't tell me how to deal with my daughter.
Drop it.
No! Wait!
Step aside. We need to terminate her before she turns.
Terminate. It's my fucking daughter.
Ada. Just let them be.
Emma? Sweetheart, I told you to stay put.
Daddy?
Yeah, Daddy's here. Come here. Okay? Those fucking things outside. Look what they did to us. You're a cop. You're supposed to know something. How did this happen? Huh? She was our sweet little angel.
Mommy?
I was sleeping, honey. Okay? And I'm gonna put you to bed too, okay? Emma. Just go. Just give us some privacy.
You know, it's one thing to keep the truth from me, but why him? I want to find out what's happening here and stop whoever's behind it. Helping people like them? That's why I joined the force.
My mission is to take down Umbrella's entire operation. We may not make it out.
Whatever it takes to save this city. Count me in.
And next up on our tour of Raccoon City, we are going to be going down into the sewers. And in order to get to that next area of this game, we're going to have to go through one more boss battle, but it's definitely the easiest boss battle in the entire game, so I'm not super worried about it. That is going to be the sewer alligator, which is not an opponent that you really have to do too much against. You just have to remember a running pattern, and as long as you do that, you're going to be just fine. Because as long as you run in the right direction at the right times, at the very end, the alligator is going to be a one-shot kill. So nothing too serious there. And then we move on to the sewers, which might be one of the areas where I screw up the most, or at least at one time that was true. By the time I got around to recording these videos, I had gotten a lot better at it, but yeah, for a long time whenever I was going for these S+ runs, the sewers seemed to be where I screwed up the most. And that is just because of the adult G's that are down there. For one reason or another, I really struggled to get around them. Or at least I did for a long time. After a while, I did kind of figure out a decent method for getting around them. Granted, that method is not perfect and I still screw up from time to time, but it is way less frequent than it used to be. And while I have been running around these sewer tunnels, I have been talking over the dialogue going on between Ada and Leon. Granted, if you're watching this video, there's a really good chance you already heard it, but just in case you haven't, I'll go ahead and give a summary, and also the captions were on, you can still read it. But Ada was just explaining to Leon that this is all basically happening because of Umbrella's viruses, turning people into monsters. Well, not just people, I guess, animals as well. And this entire conversation as they're running through the sewer tunnels is just explaining that Umbrella is the bad guy. Ada is very specifically looking for Dr. Annette-Birkin, because Annette had a very large role in creating that virus. And Ada explains the reason they're going into the sewers to do this is because Umbrella apparently has a secret laboratory somewhere underground.
You sure this is the right way?
Unfortunately.
Wait there.
Leon! Get out of there!
Okay, time to start running away from the alligator, and you want to immediately run to the left side of the screen. The alligator is going to lunge to the right, and after he does that, move yourself all the way over to the right side of the screen. Then the alligator is going to lunge at you twice on the left side of the screen, and after he does it the second time, go ahead and make your way over to the left very quickly, because he's going to quickly go to the right and chomp at that area. If you do all of that, you are in the clear. Make your way to the middle of the sewer tunnel and just run down there until you slide down a bunch of sludge, and then you get the opportunity to shoot the gas pipe that will ultimately lead to exploding and then blowing off the head of that alligator, and you are good to go. So yeah, not a very complicated fight. It is just left, right, left, center, boom. And I think I said this in my long playthrough as well, but if you find yourself in a weird situation where you do not have ammunition at this point in the game, whenever you do the slide down the sludge, there will be a grenade right next to you. So go ahead and grab that and try that instead. I believe that will still cause the pipe to explode, and that should still get you the victory against the alligator. So yeah, that's definitely the easiest boss fight in the entire game. As long as you don't mix up your left and rights, well, you should be fine. That pattern does not change based on the scenario, and Leon's the only character that goes against the alligator, so it's pretty easy to memorize, and I can't imagine you're going to mess it up too much. And if you do mess it up, you're only going to mess it up once, and you're probably going to remember it the next time. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and have an elevator ride with Ada, and we're going to have a conversation about how this virus impacts animals, which somehow is surprising to Leon, even though he's seen dogs being infected by the virus up to this point. Which I guess he does say that he's surprised that reptiles are impacted by the virus, which I guess fair enough. We haven't seen any other reptiles being infected up to this point, but you would think if it impacts humans and also impacts dogs, you wouldn't be too surprised to hear that it also impacts other animals. I don't know, maybe Leon was just thinking to himself, maybe this thing only impacts mammals. Anyway, we get a little bit more Annette-Birkin foreshadowing, and sure enough, right around the corner, we are going to be running into her, which is going to lead to us finally getting to try out Ada's segment of this game, which is going to be pretty brief, but hey, we get a little bit of a break from Leon, and we get to do something a little bit different.
William's handiwork.
Identify yourself.
Annette-Birkin.
She's who we're looking for?
Not much time. Need to dispose of it. We're here for the G-Virus. That's not gonna happen. I'm warning you, Doctor. Oh, yeah?
Hey!
Stop! forget the G-virus! Didn't expect that from a scientist. Leon.
Forget about me. Just go. Stop her before she gets away.
I'm right outside the facility, in pursuit of Annette. If it's not on her, it must be in the nest. Once it's in hand, I'll call for extraction. You can run, Annette, but you can't hide. It's secret weapon time.
That is right. It is secret weapon time. So we're now controlling Ada and her segment of the game. And her segment is not really going to be very combat focused. It's going to be much more about evasion and trying to find these electrical components and try to beat the clock with zombies bearing down on you with nowhere near enough ammunition to kill all of them. Now, you're not going to be too overwhelmed. There's not that many in this game, but there are a few. We will see that here in just a moment. So yeah, the gimmick for Ada is going to be the EMF visualizer. And whenever you have that equipped, you get this X-ray view where you can look through the walls. And whenever you're looking through the walls, you're trying to find any electrical components that the visualizer can control. That allows us to run the fans to a breaking point so we can use those as pathways. That allows us to open certain doors, just a bunch of random things. Really whatever the plot needs you to do in that moment, so long as there is an electrical device that you can control. And then at times, it also forgets that you can do that and makes things harder on yourself, but that's besides the point. We are mostly going to be controlling fans and then flipping switches so that we can unlock doors. There is an achievement for getting through this entire portion of the game by only using the EMF visualizer. I do not do that here today, but I felt like it was worth pointing out. Although I do think I get through this entire part without taking any damage, which is way better than my long playthrough that I did where she nearly died. So at least I did better in that regard. And for a moment I considered just trying to run by that zombie to try and just get through this entire part using only the EMF visualizer, but I didn't feel like he was in the right position for me to get by damage free, so I backtrack and I go grab the flash grenade because it's going to come in handy here in just a moment. And we're just going to run around him and then use the flash grenade to blind all the other zombies that are lingering not too far behind. And then we should have a clear shot all the way back to the elevator as long as I timed it right. There is one zombie that pops up right by the elevator. It's the one that we ran by in the previous room. He breaks through the door and eventually tries to catch up to us. And depending on how quick you do this, he may be just beyond the elevator, maybe in your path getting to the elevator. It just depends. I have forgotten about him a couple of times, thinking to myself, yeah, I went so fast, he's nowhere near me, and then got bit, so don't be like me, actually look for him and try to avoid him if you do see him or shoot him in the leg, just something. And speaking of the gimmick of things lingering not too far behind us, forcing us to quickly open doors and break fans and things of that nature with Ada so we can get away, we now have Mr. X showing up right in that same elevator up here to me, and now he is chasing after me. Fortunately, if you know where all the electrical parts are for the EMF visualizer, this part is very easy, but if you don't, well, it can be a little bit stressful trying to avoid the fists of Mr. X. But I managed to get out of that stress-free. I jumped through the fan, and, well, Mr. X cannot climb through there, so no more Mr. X while we're playing as Ada. In fact, there are no more zombies whatsoever for the remainder of Ada's playthrough. That does not necessarily mean there are no threats left. I do have one more remaining, but at least I don't have to worry about anything eating me or punching me to death. And after pulling that lever, we are now approaching the very last challenge of this mode. For Ada, this is also going to be the very last threat, and then we're pretty much in the clear just jogging to the finale. So we are going to go look for a wristband inside the incinerator, and I'm sure going inside the incinerator is going to be just fine and nothing could possibly go wrong.
Bravo. Gonna burn me alive now?
You'll never get your filthy hands on the G.
I'm not the only one after it. You realize that?
And you won't die alone.
Alright, time for the last challenge that could potentially kill us. So we need to open the incinerator door, which requires us to find panels in the wall of the incinerator. We find one, we activate it, we look back to the door, we disable the lock it was connected to, and then we look for the next panel and do the same thing all over again. Eventually we hit all 3 locks, and then we're free to escape. Usually only takes about 30 seconds or less. So yeah, not too bad if you know what you're looking for. And this time I managed to get it done in 28 seconds. That's a little bit better than my long playthrough, but not my best. Still, my best is only a difference of maybe 2 seconds, so it's not exactly like I'm losing a lot. And courtesy of the dead body that I think starved to death, maybe was killed and left in the incinerator, we got a wristband. Fortunately, he was not incinerated, was still there with a functioning wristband, otherwise this would have really sucked. But that's pretty much going to be it for Ada's segment of the game. We're free to run all the way to the finale and see what the conclusion is between her and Annette-Birkin.
Enough with this cat and mouse game.
The game is over.
You lost. Tell me, is your husband still alive? Or did you kill him so you could take credit for G?
Interesting theory.
You don't cooperate, I'll get a sample from the nest.
Over my dead body.
Where's Leon when I need him?
Ada? Damn it. Ada? Where are you?
Alright, and now I am playing as Leon again. That was the last step before I could actually advance into the sewers, and it is at this point I am able to save for the very first time. I'll go ahead and cut out all the loading screens that happen whenever you save, that way it saves us a little bit of time in this video. And I'm at about the halfway point in the game at this point, and that is a pretty long time to go without saving. It would really suck to die and have to start over after all that time, but it really doesn't happen all that often, and it's really not that risky. In fact, everything that had occurred up to this point was pretty easy for me to consistently live through, not just for this playthrough, but all my previous attempts as well. The one exception that comes to mind whenever I say that is the jailbreaking scene. Whenever the zombies break out of their jail cells, that part can be a little inconsistent if tossing the grenades does not go according to plan, or Mr.X does not cooperate and keeps throwing you back into the zombies. There are more things that can go wrong there than pretty much anything else up to this first save point. So if I have to reset before saving for the first time, that's usually where it happens. And then I don't save immediately after that because what comes next really is not all that bad. After that, the next real threat's going to be the Alligator, but calling that a real threat is being a little bit generous because you saw how easy that was. And then there's Ada's segment of the game, which gives you everything you could possibly need to get through it alive, unless you're just not paying any attention, which I have been there before. But at this point, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and with all the tools they give you, it's pretty survivable. I'm not really concerned about that part at all, and now, as we are about to enter the sewers for the first time, well, the first real time since the threats start to change at this point, this is when the difficulty actually starts to go up, and that's mostly because of the Adult G monsters and williambirkin version 2. Actually, I take that back. It's mostly just because of williambirkin version 2. I gave them a little bit of credit just a moment ago, but the Adult G monsters can be pretty easy to get by, And other times they don't really want to cooperate, but even when they don't want to cooperate, they're still pretty manageable if you just have some green, red, blue herbs. Like if you combine all those, you get your full heal, you get poison protection, you get damage resistance for a little bit. Oh, and here's the first adult G encounter. And I have plenty of that combination of herb right now, and you can also make at least 2 of them while dealing with the adult G monsters, so there's really not too much to worry about as long as you're paying attention. And you prepare for whenever you encounter them in the maze here in a moment. In fact, you even get 1 more green, red, blue herb whenever you're encountering William version 2, so there's plenty of those around here. Outside of just making sure you have resistances and you can heal, the main thing whenever it comes to the adult G monsters is just going to be stunning them. You saw it a moment ago with that one that was submerged. I shot it, it pops up in a stunned state, and you can run right by it. Not all of them allow you to do that, but there are plenty that do, and you need to take advantage of it. And I do have plans for the others.
I don't like the sound of that. Come on. Ada! I'm coming, Ada.
Alright, we see Ada, and it's time to go save her. So I picked up a few useful items on the way here, and now I need to immediately store those away. I got some shotgun shells, some high-grade gunpowder, and a combat knife. Those probably will not be seeing any usage until I make it to the secret Umbrella lab. Here in the sewers, I need to take a somewhat minimalist approach. What I mean by that is I want as little in my inventory as possible before going into the sewers. Because I have a lot of stuff I need to go collect, and I want to do it all in one trip. So altogether, I need to get a handle that opens doors, 2 green, red, blue herbs, shotgun shells, handgun ammo, 1 grenade, 3 chest piece plugs, a shotgun upgrade, and a flamethrower that takes up 2 inventory spaces. That should be everything, at least I think that's everything. And jumping into the sewers, I'm only taking the shotgun and the Matilda with me and not with any ammo to reload them. Those 2 weapons are going to take up a combined 4 inventory spaces, and that leaves me with just 6 empty inventory spots to work with. When it comes to all the items I just rattled off and I said that I needed to collect, some of those are being used along the way during this trip. So even though their grand total is more than I can carry at one time, picking them up and using them in the right order should make the 6 spaces I have work. I am opening the safe for the shotgun upgrade right now. It's going to be a stock upgrade that improves the firing and the reloading speeds. I combine it with the shotgun immediately so it does not take up any inventory spaces. The combination for the safe is written on the side of the safe just in case you did not know it, and it should be 212-8. I also picked up the red herb and the handle tool on the way here. The handle tool is going to be necessary to open a bunch of sewer doors, and I am just going to be combining other herbs with the red herb, like the blue herb I just picked up by the zombie that was sitting on the ground, minding its own business, before I decided to just go ahead and shoot it in the face and make its head explode with the shotgun. Speaking of which, that is going to be a running theme with all the zombies I end up running into in this little sewer trip. And after I get done sharing all the head exploding fun with all the other zombies downstairs, I'm going to be picking up a green herb to go ahead and combine with that red-blue herb combination, completing the green-red-blue herb combination that I'm going to need. So going forward, I will have a reliable way of curing poison if I end up screwing up and getting grabbed by one of the adult G monsters. Then I flip the switch to open the gate, and while it is opening, I jump into the sewer water and I find myself a hidden grenade. That is going to be super important in the sewer maze later on, so stay tuned for that. And with the gate open, I'm going to go ahead and go for the rook plug first. I end up running by an adult G monster that was sliding out of a pipe, and then I go on to use the tool for the first time to open one of the sewer doors. That way I can go upstairs and find that rook plug. It is in the maintenance area I passed through earlier, but I could not grab the plug when I was there the first time around without closing my only path forward. Now I'm taking a different way back there, which is going to result in me unlocking a door that gives us an alternative way to get back to the control room, so we can take the plug without there being any issues. Before I unlock that new door, I pick up some handgun ammunition that I'll eventually just load into the handgun, that way it's not taking up any inventory space. And also, before I use the elevator to come up here, I picked up some shotgun shells. Once I unlock the door, I run directly to the rook plug and pick it up before the zombie can come around the corner and possibly grab me. If you take too long, he's going to get in the way, so rush to that plug as quickly as you can and then get out of there. And now to deal with that adult G monster that climbed out of the pipe. This can be one of the most inconsistent part of the sewers, but I get pretty lucky here in this playthrough, because rather than wandering around in the water and waiting for me, the monster decided to submerge himself and just kind of relax and not even be worried about me whatsoever. That allows me to use the same shooting and stunning opportunity I did with the very first G-monster I found. So I end up just shooting this one, it pops up stunned, and I run right by it without taking any damage and not having any problems whatsoever. So that is one of the easier encounters I've had with that G-monster, and I'm pretty happy about it. So after avoiding that monster, I progressed back to the gate that we opened earlier. But this time I'm taking a different path, that way I can pick up the king and the queen pieces. I end up opening a door to another area, and I tend to call this the sewer maze. It's not really much of a maze, considering it's kind of hard to get lost in here, especially if you've been here once before. Like, there are not that many options for where you can turn and get lost, but still, it kind of feels like a maze. Anyway, the real feature here in this area are a bunch of adult G-monsters. I believe there are 3 in one condensed area. And I have a method for getting around this, and I screwed it up pretty badly when I was playing as Claire in my long playthrough. I ended up doing a little bit better whenever I played Leon's second scenario as part of that long playthrough, but I still ended up screwing up a little bit. So this time around, I want everything to go perfectly because I have not managed to do that yet, at least not in a recording. And considering I'm trying to go for the S+ rank, which requires me to be pretty close to perfect in certain areas, it seems like the best possible time to show that off. So what I want to do is I'll run up to the very first adult G monster and find that it is submerged. I will then do the same trick I did just a moment ago, shoot it, it pops up stunned, and I run right by it. And then I'm going to find the next G monster wandering around at the intersection of the maze. I want to make sure that I equip the hand grenade that I found earlier, and then immediately throw that hand grenade at the adult G monster. Sometimes they'll reach out to you and grab you, but the explosion will save you before you take any damage. And then that also will stun that adult G monster and you can run right by it. And you continue forward and eventually the third monster will appear. It climbs out of a sewer pipe like the one we saw earlier. And because of that, it's not going to be able to land in the water and recover in time to attack you. You just run right by it and you'll be okay. That is my ideal way of getting around those 3 adult G monsters without taking any damage, not getting poisoned, just none of that. And finally, in this playthrough, I get to demonstrate that going correctly. And now the only question is, will everything go just as smoothly whenever I have to run through there again later on? But I will worry about that in just a moment. For right now, I am doing another puzzle to get the queen and the king plugs. You have to alternate putting them in different electrical boxes that are appropriate for that piece, and those will open gates and you wander around until you eventually find all of them and also find a path back out of this area. I am also just going to shotgun this zombie in the head because eventually it becomes active after you have both of the plugs. If this were scenario 2, there would be 2 zombies, but in this case there's just 1. On the way here, I ended up picking up a bunch of herbs, and I now have 2 green, red, blue herb combinations. Those are going to be taking up a lot of my inventory space, so I'm going to end up using both of them right before I leave. That way it clears up my inventory space, and I have just enough inventory space to have all the key items in my, well, inventory. But also, using those herbs at the last possible minute ensures that I will have full health, poison immunity, and damage resistance whenever I have to run through all the adult G monsters one more time. So it's going to be the best possible time that I can use them if I have to use them. Also in this puzzle is going to be the flamethrower, which is something I absolutely want because it's going to be very useful in some later boss battles. And now I'm solving the very last of the puzzle, just alternating between the last electrical boxes, that way I can exit this area. And then I have to run all the way back through the maze and get by all the adult G monsters one more time, that way I can head all the way back to try and save Ada. I have to take a slightly different path through the maze than I did the first time around, but it's mostly going to be the same. And this part can be really inconsistent as well. In fact, this is the most inconsistent part of the entire sewer experience, except for maybe williambirkin version 2. And unlike running through the maze the first time, I really don't have all that good of a plan of getting around this situation. Like, I have a few tactics to get around the monsters, but sometimes it just does not go well. So I'm really just hoping for favorable situations. Which again, it's very inconsistent, so the situations can change very drastically. Like for example, on some occasions I can hop into the water and run to the first checkpoint in the sewers without there being a single monster in my way. Only the very last monster that guards the exit. That is by far the best scenario. It definitely does not happen often, but occasionally it does. Then there are other scenarios where there's just maybe one monster that you encounter before that first checkpoint, and then you just kind of have to brute force your way through it or lure it back to the walkway, that way you can kind of get locked in a diving animation then run past it. Other times there's 2 monsters. Other times all 3 of them are there. The game kind of varies with that experience, so you really just have to take whatever it gives you. And whenever I say the first checkpoint, what I mean is there's a platform in the middle of the maze that you have to climb up on top of. It's going to be the one right here. And then you can hop off of it on the other side, which takes you in the direction of the ladder so you can exit this area. I've always kind of considered that the checkpoint because that means you've gotten past the 3 potential adult G monsters that could get in your way. And then there's only the adult G monster guarding the exit to go, which is going to be this guy right here. So in my mind, I always kind of thought of that as a checkpoint. So whenever it comes to this last adult G monster, I always get on this platform right here to avoid his initial charging attack. And after that, if you stay on the platform, eventually he's going to start diving back underwater. I like to run past him whenever he's locked into that diving animation. This time I'll wait a little bit too long, but I'm still able to run by him. It just means that the adult G monster has the opportunity to resurface and stun me for a brief moment, but I still recover fast enough to run away before he can attack me, so it really does not matter all that much. But yeah, that is how I get around the sewer maze and all the adult G monsters. Whenever I first run through there, it's pretty consistent with the exception of my long playthroughs, which just kind of show off how badly things can occasionally go. And then whenever you have to run through there the second time, things are much more inconsistent, and you're really just hoping for some sort of a favorable roll on whatever the hell the adult G monsters are doing. And okay, we are all the way back in the control room, which means it's time to solve the chess piece puzzle. Just leave the pawn in that very first electrical box. In the second electrical box in the middle, we're putting the queen plug in. And in the third electrical box, we take the bishop out, and then we put the king piece in. And on the other wall in the middle, I'm taking the knight plug out, and I'm replacing it with the rook, and then I'm putting the knight piece in the third box all the way on the right. And then for the very last step, I go all the way to the box on the left, and I put the bishop in there, and that should open the door. The order of the pieces changes with the scenario, but for scenario 1, that is the order. Regardless of the scenario, there are clues that are listed on a piece of paper that is tagged up on the bulletin board on the wall beside those panels. So if you're ever uncertain, take a look at that and I'll give you a few clues. You may still end up in a scenario where you have to trial and error your way through that puzzle, but that should be it. You can always reference this for scenario 1, and eventually I will do scenario 2 as well, so I'll cover it there too. I intend to play as both characters in both their scenarios for the S+ runs, so I can explain it during those too. Now, generally I want to get through the sewers in about 30 minutes. That seems to be about my average whenever I'm making a good time. And right now I am on pace for that, so things are going pretty good. Now that the door is open, I'll be going down a path to face off against the final threat of the sewers, that being Williambirkin version 2. And while I make my way to him, I pick up every herb along the way, giving me one more green, red, blue herb combination. And I guess it's worth noting that this actually used to be the very worst boss fight in the entire game for me. Like I mentioned earlier that I used to feel like the adult G monsters were the worst part of the sewers, but then I corrected myself and said, oh no, Williambirkin version 2 is the worst part of the sewers. And it's entirely this fight. And the really ironic and funny thing about that statement is that Williambirkin himself is not the worst part of the sewers. It is just how you have to win this fight. I would constantly die in this fight whenever I was first playing this game, and even afterwards for a long time, this was still one of the most inconsistent parts of my runs where I would very regularly die. And it was entirely due to user error and self-inflicted misery. And what I mean by that is, more often than not, I'd be killing myself using the crane. Like, it was really rare when William was the reason I died. Me dying was almost always because I found myself in the wrong place at the wrong time whenever that crane was swinging around. And this was a really bad problem to have because you saw where I first saved. It was at the very beginning of the sewers. And for a long time, I did not save again until after this fight. Like, my previous 3 save points that I like to do were whenever I was first entering the sewers, right before fighting Williambirkin version 3, and whenever the self-destruct sequence in the secret lab for Umbrella was going on. But because I was dying so much facing off against William version 2, I had to completely change that. Because I was having to go through the entire sewer sequence over and over and over again. It was just miserable. And eventually I would get it and the rest of the run would be fine. I'd get the S+ rank and things were great. But I had to retool that because there just had to be a better way, and of course there was. So yeah, eventually it became I saved before the sewers, I saved before Williambirkin version 2, and then I would normally save right before Williambirkin version 3. And those would be my save points for the entire game. And I just realized when editing this video that I did not save before Williambirkin version 2. I'm not sure if that was a calculated decision or if that was me just forgetting, because it's been a little while since I did play this playthrough, but yeah, I completely deviated from my preference. So if I were to lose to William in this fight right now, I'd be stuck resetting all the way back at the beginning of the sewers. So I guess I had better not mess that up. But yeah, at some point or another, pretty much every boss has given me some trouble. William Birkin version 2 is definitely the worst, even though I did eventually get used to him. Even William 1 used to cause me a lot of problems because I'd very regularly run out of ammunition fighting him. But then eventually I figured out the knife trick, and after that, William version 1 just kind of became free, but at first he was a little bit of a problem. Now, William version 3 can be kind of an issue until you realize if you're playing as Claire, you can pretty much just cheese the acid rounds with a grenade launcher and you will be fine, especially if you're combining that with the spark shot. Or if you're playing as Leon, the flamethrower is just really, really good against William version 3. Keeping those things in mind, as long as you have healing items, William version 3 is a non-factor, easy fight. But if you don't know that, it can be a little bit challenging trying to shoot him in his various eyes on his body, when ironically the best tactic is to not even try doing that. And then there's William version 4, which is really only a problem if you do not have enough ammunition going into that fight. Otherwise, it's really easy as well, especially because you get the minigun right before that fight. And then there is Super Mr.X, which is also a pretty easy fight as long as you have grenades. And that's mostly just because it's a timed fight more than a real fight. So you're trying to survive for a few minutes. So yeah, none of the boss fights are really all that bad. But if I were looking at all of them, William Birkin version 2 definitely caused me the most problems for the longest period of time. Although eventually, like all things, you kind of just get used to it and you kind of get into a rhythm and you figure out how you need to approach the fight in order to win it. Well, actually, I'm going to take that back. That's true for this game. And now I'm looking ahead to Nemesis and Resident Evil 3's remake, and yeah, with some of those fights, no amount of preparation or repetitions made them any easier, especially on the hardest difficulty. Those absolutely sucked. But I'll cover that whenever I get to that game. But I guess speaking of that, I do have the footage for the Resident Evil 3 remake playthrough, so that is going to come eventually. But back to the game at hand, we defeated William Birkin version 2, which means I'm going to get through the entire sewer portion of the game only saving once. My second save isn't going to happen until we get into the secret laboratory nest. But we need Ada for that, so let's go ahead and save her.
Come on.
Ada! Ada, where are you?
Over here!
Ada! I was getting worried there for a sec.
I can't get it out.
I don't know if I should,
Just do it. I can't walk like this.
Okay. It's gonna hurt. Hold on.
I can do it myself.
Just relax, okay? So, what do we do now?
Get yourself out of here. While you still can.
I'm not just gonna leave you. Not like this.
You don't understand. The situation's worse than I thought.
You're not getting rid of me that easy. You protected me. Now it's my turn.
Didn't realize we were keeping score.
Grab my shoulder.
Don't push it, rookie.
Okay, just trying to help. What's your step?
You want to help? We have to get to the nest.
Nest?
Umbrella's lab, right beneath us. Annette let it slip. That's where the virus samples are. You up for this?
Think I could fit it in my schedule.
Come on. We got work to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And alright, Leon and Ada will walk around having a conversation about their mortality and how the Birkin family is completely screwing up, well, pretty much their entire day and nearly their lives. And while all that is going on, I stopped by the storage box to get rid of my excess items, that way I have plenty of space going into Nest. And I can run straight to the cafeteria area and grab what I need without having to, well, manage my inventory even more. But yeah, mostly just wanted to make sure I have the shotgun on me and then also heal before I go. Outside of that, though, I don't really have too many specifications or preferences for how I want to tackle Nest. But fortunately for me, I am making really good time, and I'm definitely going to make the S+ time requirements. so I can begin to take my time a little bit in Nest and not be as risky, and also not to worry too much about having the exact amount of storage space for things. But yeah, we managed to get through the sewers in about 30 minutes like I wanted, and when it comes to Nest, I want to be done with it in less than 40 minutes, so we will see what happens. One of the advantages to not saving before William Birkin version 2 means I still have 2 more saves available to me, and I should be able to use that in Nest to guarantee that I don't have too many issues with deaths and having to reset at a bad point. And also, if for some reason, somehow, I completely wasted like an hour's worth of gameplay, which is not going to happen, and I did not make the time requirement for S+, I could always start over inside of Nest. So having 2 saves still available to me makes things pretty easy for me. It keeps things flexible. That shouldn't be too much of a factor here today, but it is nice to have all the same.
Do not exit until the final destination.
You know what I was thinking? I can't wait for the FBI to raid Umbrella headquarters and take those bastards to justice.
I agree, but to be clear, you're not working in official capacity. This is a federal case. Once we get the G-Virus, I'm back on my own. Hey, Leon, trust me?
You trust me?
Honestly, if I didn't, you'd probably be dead.
Right.
I thought I might need your help, and I was right. If you can secure the G-Virus, I can make sure what happened in Raccoon City never happens again.
Ada, you said it yourself. It's a federal case. I don't
Leon,
have the authority.
Look at me. I'm a liability now. If I'm gonna finish this case, you're the last hope I've got.
I'm not just gonna leave you here. What if you're attacked? What if you need help?
I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. I gotta see this through. And I want to see you again. I got plenty to live for, trust me.
Now, arriving at Nest.
Go. Please, we don't have much time. You're gonna need this.
Okay.
Leon. I'm counting on you.
I know.
Time for the very last part of the game, the secret subterranean laboratory called Nest. Oddly, this is not the only one of these underground labs in this city. And I know it is implied that Umbrella can basically do whatever they want in Raccoon City, but somehow no one really noticing all of this construction and crazy underground work. That's a pretty crazy stretch for me. Kinda hard to believe that one, but hey, video game logic. So I have about an hour and 20 minutes to beat the game, and if I do that, I still make the time requirement for the S+ rank. That means I am basically guaranteed to get the S+ rank unless I die. Now, if I take it easy in Nest, I usually get through the entire laboratory, the boss battles, and the timed evacuation in about 40 minutes. Keeping that in mind, I have about double that time to work with, so I can relax a little bit in this last portion of the game. Now, that does not mean I'm just going to be wasting gratuitous amounts of time here, but I also don't have to be sprinting to the finish line either. I'm just going to go at a reasonable pace to maintain my good time, but also not do anything stupid that will get Leon killed. That would really suck as I'm getting towards the end of the game and doing so well. And okay, at this point I'm going through the cafeteria on my way to the napping area. In the cafeteria, there's really only one item I care about, and that's getting the flamethrower fuel. I run a very specific path, that way I don't give the zombies any opportunity to hurt me. But I do manage to pick up that flamethrower fuel along the way, and then I head up into the rafters. Once I am in the rafters, I drop back down into the kitchen area, and I'm not really too worried about picking up any of the items in there, although there is a knife and I believe some gunpowder in there that can be useful if you need that, but I have plenty of stuff at this point. Then once I make it to the nap area, I go ahead and get an upgrade for the flamethrower, get some shotgun shells, and I go ahead and take the bracelet off of Dr. Lee. The bracelet has a chip that's going to allow us to access certain parts of Nest with a level 2 clearance. And we need to continue upgrading our clearance the entire time that we are in the Nest laboratory. Now, there are 4 different clearance levels that you can achieve in this area, although I think Leon can only reach level 3. So hey, we're over halfway there. But once I have the level 2 clearance from the bracelet, I'm going to be making my way out of the snapping area and the cafeteria area and returning back to the entrance. That way I can access the main elevator junction point. And with a level 2 clearance, I can access, I believe, the east side area, although we need to get to the west because that is where the G-Virus sample is going to be. Now I'm extending a walkway that will take us to the middle of this gigantic pit, and in the middle is going to be the elevator that we're going to be using to evacuate from Nest later on, so keep that in mind. But first, we need to get to the middle to get to the east side, all of which is accessible with a level 2 clearance. Now on the east side is going to be a garden or a greenhouse, and that's when a lot of crazy crap happens because we get to deal with the plant people for the very first time in this playthrough. Plant people are just one-hit KO monsters where if they manage to grab you and you do not have a defensive item, they are going to bite your head off. They do have some vulnerabilities on their bodies that kind of remind me of the regenerators from Resident Evil 4, but you don't have to hit every single one to defeat them. In fact, I'm not even sure if you can defeat them. I just know if you shoot one of those vulnerabilities, it stuns them and you can run by them without them killing you. And also if they do grab you, as long as you have a defensive item like a combat knife, flash grenade, hand grenade, whatever, you can get out of their grab and not be killed instantly. Now the reason we're going to be dealing with this little shop of horrors is because within the garden or the greenhouse is going to be a guy suspended up in the air by a plant. And that person is going to have a clearance level 3 bracelet. We want that level 3 chip, that way we can proceed on to the west side area, that way we can get that G-Virus sample. So everything that I'm about to do is in an effort to get that bracelet, which means I need to kill some plants. And in order to do that, the first thing I do is make my way to a console right next to the greenhouse area, and if I mess around with it, I end up distributing some solution onto the plants. Now that solution really does not do anything to hinder them, they're still having a very nice day. And we end up finding out that's because the solution is not cold enough. There is a temperature requirement for it, and if it's cold enough, it will kill the plants. So now we are going to go on a mission and refill this capsule with some more solution. And once I do that, I'm going to have to cool it down somehow. That way it is at its ideal temperature and it will work. And by work, I mean we're going to kill every plant in there, or at least stun them at a minimum. At the moment, I am entering a bunch of random symbols into a keypad in order to unlock some stuff. Now the things I am unlocking are going to be a hatch that is inside of the greenhouse, and the other thing I'm unlocking is going to be a machine that I need in order to fill the capsule with the solution that we need to kill the plants. The thing is that machine is locked, and unless we put these symbols in, it's going to remain that way. Now, if you are interested in how I figured out what these symbols are, the one to open up the hatch on the greenhouse happens to be on a label on top of that hatch. So as long as you look at it, memorize it, screenshot it, whatever, you can open it up and then go down that ladder. When it comes to the solution machine, there is a trophy hidden somewhere in Nest. It's going to be of a double helix like a DNA symbol. And if you examine that item and look at the very bottom of it, there is going to be a sticker with the symbols on it that let you know what exactly you need to do in order to open up that machine. So yeah, the hatch has the symbols on it, and the trophy gives you the symbols that you need to open up the machine. Now, I've already taken screenshots of that, so I'm not really needing to go find those items. I can just go ahead and do this now and save myself some time. And I'm just going to go ahead and speed this part up because I completely screw up the order that I need to go in order to get the solution into the capsule. And that causes me to hit these buttons way more than I need to, so rather than just explaining what buttons I'm hitting on the screen right now, I'll go ahead and give you the short version of what I should have done. Now, whenever you go to the machine, if you've hit none of the buttons yet, the order that you would go in is red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green. Or if color is an issue for you, like if you're colorblind, the order would be middle, left, right, middle, left, right, middle, left. Now, that is going to be the order for Scenario 1. If you were doing Scenario 2, it'd be completely different. Although it is the same between the characters, like Claire and Leon have the same button combination for Scenario 1, and Claire and Leon have the same button combinations for Scenario 2. Now that I have a capsule full of the plant-killing solution, I need to go find a way to cool it down. The low temperature requirement is explained in a document in the same room as the solution dispersing machine, but I already know that information, so I just skip the document. Now to cool down the solution, I need to climb down the hatch ladder that I unlocked earlier with the weird symbols. Once I am down the ladder, I pass through a maintenance room to a lounge area. I am just killing the zombies laying around in that area right now, so they do not become a problem for me later. In the lounge is going to be a power panel, and it also connects to a server storage room, a staircase, and a cryogenic lab. I want to find a way into the cryo lab to cool down the solution, but the door does not open for me. Turns out it requires electricity and there is no power at the moment. So I need to go find a tool to use at the power panel, that way I can restore power. Now that tool I need is going to be up the staircase, which ends up being guarded by 2 different lickers. I end up just running by them, but they are not going to stop being a problem just yet. Eventually I need to return to the lounge area and they will be waiting for me. They will continue to reposition themselves and I'll have to keep finding ways to sneak by them. There are going to be 3 different zombies in the staircase as well as in the top floor storage area. In fact, one of them just swan dived down the staircase behind me. As I climb up the staircase to get to that storage room, I take out every single one of them with the shotgun. And once I am in that top floor storage area, I can find a power panel tool that I can use to restore power. The tool I end up seeing that I need is called the signal modulator, and I leave it behind just long enough to find the remaining zombies in the area. Now I may end up taking this route again later, and if I do, I could be in a hurry. And if I am being chased up the stairs, I want as few adversaries in my way as possible. So getting rid of the zombies is going to be pretty important. Even if I get rid of all the zombies though, a new threat will eventually appear once the lights are back on. And whenever the power is back on, a plant person emerges that finds its way into the staircase area, so there's not really a way to make this location entirely safe. But I'm going to do the best I can for the time being, and once I am done with all the zombie removal, I pick up the signal modulator, I unlock the door back to the storage safe room, and I do some quick inventory management before making my way back down to the lounge area to restore power. I really just want 2 inventory spaces, that way I can pick up some high-grade gunpowder that is in the same room that I got the signal modulator from, and also so I can pick up some standard gunpowder from the cryogenic lab. Now once I do make my way all the way back down to the lounge, I'm going to navigate around the lickers to get to the power panel so I can use the signal modulator. Sneaking around the lickers is generally not a very hard thing to do, but sometimes they can get in some less than ideal positions. In fact, in this playthrough I ended up needing to shoot one of the lickers. And whenever I did that, I had to run back through a door and escape the licker, that way it would become docile again. Whenever I do this, it will cause the monster to relocate, and then it'll be safer for me to get to the power panel. So that is an option for you if you need the licker to move. And also, while I am talking about options, I should point out another one. It is not something that I have done in any of my uploaded playthroughs yet, but killing the lickers is definitely an option you could do instead. I tend to resort to just sneaking around the entire time because in my opinion, shooting and killing them just takes up way too many bullets to be worth it, and it does not save you enough time in return. Although you may end up feeling differently, so I figured it's still worth pointing out just in case that is an option you want to explore instead of what I am doing. Alright, I shot the licker a bunch of times and now I'm retreating behind the door, and you'll notice whenever you cross the door frame, the licker stops coming after you. It gets confused, it does not know where you are. This is something that will happen to a bunch of enemies. I'm not 100% sure why, but you can exploit it to your advantage. This can happen with zombies, plant people, lickers, just all kinds of different enemies. So in this case, it becomes docile. I let the door close, then I go back through the door and I find that the licker has moved, and now it's time to get to that power panel and get the power back up and running. The licker is still kind of in my way, but at least he is closer to the power panel and closer to the tables. And I can use those tables as a buffer between me and the licker to kind of get around it without it being right next to me. So this is still not the best position it could possibly be in, but it's a pretty good one. And I guess while I'm explaining that and trying to get the power back up and running, it's also worth explaining why I killed all the zombies earlier when I really didn't have to in that exact moment. And that is because once the lickers are in here, or possibly once the electricity is restored, one of those 2 events will trigger the zombies to get up and start walking around. And trying to sneak around the lickers with a bunch of zombies bearing down on you is not a very good position to be in, so I'm just trying to remove any of those factors that can screw me over. So I kill the zombies before the lickers show up, that way there is no possibility they can cause me any trouble. Now I consider the lickers to have 3 different stages of alertness. Stage 1 is the best one, it is their oblivious stage. That is the stage where they are just stationary on the wall or the ceiling or the floor and they are not actually doing anything to try and find you. Stage 2 is their curious stage. That's whenever you walk by them but not directly next to them. And they start investigating because they did hear something but they're not sure what it is. You can still walk around and they will not necessarily find you unless you run around. So this is not a great position to be in because they can find you, but they're pretty slow about it. So they're not the hardest obstacles to just kind of walk around. And then there is stage 3 when they are furious and trying to kill you because they know exactly where you are because you are way too loud. That is the one I am definitely trying to avoid. So yeah, stage 1, oblivious. Stage 2, curious. Stage 3, furious. If I do everything right when restoring power so I can access the cryogenic lab in the storage area from the lounge, they should never leave stage 2. Ideally, they would never leave stage 1, but that's not the most realistic expectation. You're probably going to have to walk by them in some way or another eventually, so they are going to go into stage 2. Or you can just say screw it like I just did, and I decided that the door was close enough that I was just going to sprint to it, and I was not going to be creeping around anymore. Even though there was a licker right there on the wall right next to the door, and it easily could have swiped at me and caused some damage. Fortunately, it did not. But yeah, I am playing it risky even though I did not need to because I am not really facing a time constraint at this point. But after doing that, I found myself in the server storage room, which contains some flamethrower fuel and some other items that I would like to have for later on. Flamethrower fuel is the one item I really wanted to point out though, because it is going to be the most important one for the very next boss battle. I am trying to accumulate as much of the flamethrower fuel as I can prior to that boss battle because that is going to be the weapon I am using the most in that fight. And alright, that's going to be all the items in this storage room that I can collect for the time being. Now it's time to go back into the lounge and see how the lickers are doing after I triggered their stage 3. Hopefully they've had time to calm down and they're in positions that are favorable for me. I definitely take my time when walking around the lounge just to make sure that is going to be the case. I'm not going to walk up on one on accident and then get killed. And I end up finding out that one of them is around the tables, and the other one is on the wall in the hallway I need to take in order to get to the cryogenic lab. There is a decent amount of space between the licker that's by the table and the wall, so I can hug the wall without causing any problems. It will still go into a stage 2 level of alertness, but that is just going to be a slow investigative state, and I'm not too worried about that. And the same thing is true for the licker on the wall. I just go to the opposite wall, hug that wall, and walk by. It will go into stage 2 and be investigating, but I'm going to be long gone before it has the opportunity to actually find me. And I will then find myself in the cryogenic lab, and since I went through a different door, the lickers will again become docile and relocate, and I will have to worry about them later, but they will be back in a stage 1 level of obliviousness and not really looking around or doing anything, so I'm okay with that. Now that I am in the cryogenic lab, I go ahead and use this Wally arm here, and I insert the solution capsule into the machine, that way the arm can grab it, and then rapidly cool it down. It will eventually give the capsule back to me, and then it's my turn to go ahead and go back all the way up to the greenhouse, that way I can insert the capsule into the machine one final time at the proper temperature. And then I can disperse the solution, and hopefully this time it will actually kill the plants. Although this is not the first time that I have done this or uploaded a playthrough to the channel, so it's not going to be very surprising when I tell you that using the solution does not yield the exact results that I want. It does kill some plants, but it will not kill all of them. Very specifically, the plant people will still be lingering around and saying, "What the hell, man? We weren't doing anything to you other than trying to eat you, what's the big deal?" So I will still have to deal with the plant people whenever I go for the chip to upgrade my clearance level. But at least the clearance level 3 chip will be available to me because the plant holding that person up in the air will be killed by the solution. And there is that plant man I said would be in the stairwell once the lights came back on. I'm not 100% sure where exactly that one comes from, but he only appears after there is power restored. I shoot and stun him, and I continue to make my way up the stairs. Besides him, there are no other threats in this area since I killed all the zombies, so I am free to go all the way to the safe room. Before I go and confront the plant people in the greenhouse for the final time, I'm going to knock out one more little bit of inventory management. I just want to make sure I am prepared and have all the equipment I possibly could want for the next part, considering that the threat of instant death is going to be everywhere with the plant people. Another reason I want to make sure I have everything that I could possibly need is because another enemy is going to be emerging once I use the solution and pick up the clearance chip from that bracelet. Whenever I do get that level 3 chip, Mr.X is going to be breaking into the greenhouse to give me even more problems. Now this is concern-worthy enough that I even end up saving for the second time before taking on this challenge. After doing that, I will only have one more save at my disposal, and I will be saving that for after I fight and win against the very next boss. So the very next time that I save is going to be during the timed evacuation and before the final battle, just before the credits roll. That being said, I probably only have about 20 more minutes of in-game time before this game is over. That's not counting cutscenes or the ending credits, so pushing those aside, we really do not have much longer left at all. Actually, even after doing all that inventory management, there is still something I want. there is an item I could not pick up earlier because I did not have the space left to pick it up. And that is going to be within the greenhouse laboratory where I got the solution in the first place. Now, there is a dead body in a hazmat suit, if I remember correctly, and it's going to be laying on the floor, and right next to it is going to be a hand grenade. I'm going to go out of my way to go back to that laboratory and pick up that hand grenade because, like I mentioned earlier, plant people are still going to be active even after that solution is dispersed. They are stunned for a brief period of time after the solution is dispersed, but it will not last very long. In fact, it basically just lasts long enough for you to be able to reach the person with the level 3 chip. So what I want to do is go pick up the hand grenade and then go run to the guy with the chip. I'll probably have to shoot and stun at least one of the plant people to get there, but whenever I turn around to backtrack out of the greenhouse and then run through the plant people again and then run through Mr. X, they should start to cluster before I even make that attempt. So I am going to pick up the level 3 chip. I'm going to wait for the plant people to cluster. I'm going to throw the grenade and try to take out all of them in one blast. So if everything goes correctly, only Mr. X should be standing in my way from evacuating from the greenhouse. And if he's the only one left standing, it should not be that hard to dodge him. And okay, I think I got all 4 of the plant people stunned. That means I can just resort to using the flash grenade against Mr. X. And that worked out very, very well. Okay. I stunned everything in the greenhouse, and now I'm free to run back to, well, not entirely free. There's going to be 2 more plant people in my path retreating back to the safe room. But I should be able to just shoot and stun them, and even if things go wrong, I still have a combat knife to get one of them off of me, so I should be okay. Now that I have evaded all the plant people around the greenhouse, I will not be seeing any more of them until I am evacuating from Nest. In fact, that exact statement could be applied to Mr. X as well. We saw him in the greenhouse and managed to avoid him, but he will not be seen again until the countdown to escape has begun. So I have a lot to look forward to as this place is about to blow up. But after getting away from all of them safely and getting back to the safe room, I do a bit more inventory management at the storage chest. This is a very frequent occurrence in Nest, as you may have noticed, and this is not going to slow down as I progress to the end of the game. By far, Nest is where I waste the most time on inventory management. This is even more unfortunate because I still had not realized you can auto-sort the items in your storage chest. That is something I would not realize until all of my S+ playthroughs were over. And if I had realized that sooner, it would have saved me a bunch of time considering how much of my inventory management time was spent just trying to find items in the chest. So I am going to end the game with a decent time, at least decent enough to get the S+ rank, but had I have realized that in advance, the completion times could have been even better. But enough about my what-if scenarios for this playthrough as well as my other S+ ranking playthroughs. I want to discuss what is actually going to happen next. The next boss fight is imminent, and that will be taking place in the west area of Nest that I just got access to. Like the lounge in the east area, it is going to be without power. So I am going to end up using the signal modulator for the final time to restore power to the Birkin family lab. It was here that William Birkin was trying to prevent Umbrella from taking his research as he intended to turn it over to the US government. Now that ended very poorly as the Umbrella Secret Service came in and killed him to get the virus sample and also get the rest of his research. Well, I guess they only kind of killed him. Obviously, we have been fighting the undead mutant version of William throughout the entire game, so I mean, he's still kind of around. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think there are any documents or any sort of cutscenes that describe this, but I'm kind of curious how Annette-Birkin felt about her husband betraying Umbrella and being willing to turn all of their research over to the US government. Because I was saying his research as if William did everything himself, but Annette also is due a lot of credit for the G-Virus, so I am really curious how she felt about him doing that, considering she contributed to it quite a bit, and you could argue it's her virus as well. Like, was she supportive of this whole idea, or was she feeling betrayed? I guess we may never truly know the answer to that question, but up ahead is going to be the final portion of their laboratory, and it is inside of that location that the G-Virus was being stored. And fortunately for us, even after the Umbrella Secret Service trashed the place and William went into a monster mode, there was still one G-Virus sample left for Leon to grab. With the virus now in his possession, Leon is going to be free to do one more bit of inventory management before facing off against the boss in the next room. And the boss that is going to be in the next room is going to be the latest and greatest version of William Birkin. It turns out he found his way back home to his laboratory, and he is not thrilled that we are here. Granted, he took like the most unorthodox way possible to get back to the laboratory because he eventually comes crashing through the ceiling. Not really sure how he pulled that one off. But hey, he found his way back. And after the incredibly frustrating experience of him wandering around the sewers, getting smacked around by storage containers, digging through just mountains and mountains of dirt to get to the rail card tunnel, or at least I think he got here through the tunnel, I can't imagine any other way. But yeah, he's like punching through walls, all this metal and everything to dig through the ceiling. I wouldn't be too happy either, only to realize he had fallen back into the laboratory owned by his employer who tried to kill him. Yeah, I guess I can't really blame William Birkin for being super pissed. And then he sees us after we kick the crap out of him on 2 separate occasions. So I guess I cannot really blame him for wanting to kill us, but we're not going to let that happen. And as a way of congratulating him for finding his way all the way back to his workplace, we are going to be burning William Birkin to a crisp.
Attention, unauthorized removal of a level 4 virus detected. Facility lock.
He's mine! This has to end.
What the hell's going on?
Sorry, William. You left me no choice.
You called this thing William. Why?
It shouldn't have been like this. It's Umbrella's fault, this whole mess.
You're Umbrella too. You're telling me you weren't involved in this?
Yes. But we never meant for this to happen.
Then tell me everything. Right from the start.
You don't get away that easily.
Good God, William. What have you done?
So you made this monster.
We made the G-Virus, but we never intended
You can
this
spin it any way you want. You're still responsible.
What the hell? Oh, shit.
What are you doing?
We can't let him get away!
To kick off the fight, I switch to the shotgun and use it to shoot William in the eyeball on his leg. It stuns him and I run to his backside to begin burning him with the flamethrower. William Birkin then jumps backwards and winds up a big smack. I could have dodged it by running to the left, but I acted a little bit too slowly. And he hits me, sending me into red critical health as soon as the fight just got started. I heal myself with the green, red, blue herb. That temporarily gives me damage resistance, something I will definitely need to win this fight. After healing, I went right back to dodging and running and burning. But I am doing an oddly terrible job in this fight because I continue to get hit by William. I try to stay aggressive, continuing to run right at William and setting him on fire, and eventually I get a break because William locks into an animation where he is trying to lift up a machine to throw at Leon. Now while William is trying to rip the machine out of the ground, He is completely defenseless, and I used that to my advantage. I used that opportunity to stack up as much fire damage over time as I could possibly inflict. Whenever he's ready to throw the machine, I dodge his eventual toss, and I seemed to be getting back into a rhythm because I was managing to dodge him pretty consistently. I had avoided a few of his attacks, and I was doing a pretty good job of keeping him ablaze. That is a little bit more like how I expected the entire fight to go. After all, I had done this fight many times before, and I thought I would be breezing through it. I mean, I have even done this fight damageless on a few other occasions, so the rough start was kind of surprising. I mean, it eventually leveled out in the middle, but even though the beginning of the fight was bad, it would eventually get much, much worse. The ending was pretty bad. William gets back to smacking the crap out of me and forcing me to burn through even more of my healing items, and multiple times in this fight I was forced into red health where I'd be killed if he hit me one more time. I had misjudged many of William's attacks until I eventually fell into red health for a third time, and I had no more healing items in my inventory. I had to risk turning my back to William and running to the first aid spray on a table in the arena. Now I managed to get to that spray and heal myself because William went to throw one more piece of the scenery at me, and he got locked into that animation. Now I dodge his throw attempt and I start mixing in the shotgun, shooting him whenever he was at a distance, and then switching back to the flamethrower to burn him whenever he got close to me. I am glad that I managed to get to the first aid spray so I could fully heal and give myself a legitimate shot at surviving the rest of this boss fight. That is especially true as I'm getting smacked into the ground right now. But I do wish I had realized that William Birkin was going to grab some more of the paneling off the wall to throw at me. Now that was one of two of the largest panels he could possibly throw at me, and I really wish I had seen it. And he even follows it up by trying to throw another one of those 4 containers at me, which would have been another good opportunity to start striking back at him, but I'm also a little bit too slow to realize he's doing it to do anything about it. In the end, all I can do is just dodge it, because that would have been a really good opportunity to stack up even more of the burn damage with the flamethrower. Had I have seen that, assuming I did not get hit and did not die, that could have been a very large accumulation of damage which could have really made winning this fight a lot faster. But instead I'm trying to make the most out of that first aid spray that gave me a full heal, even if I'm already back in red health and only one hit away from dying, and trying to use my remaining health, shotgun shells, and flamethrower ammo to just kind of burn away at William. This is one of the worst William fights I have had since doing the S+ ranking playthroughs. But I still managed to live and take down William with the shotgun. After he finally goes down, I scavenge all the items I can from the surrounding area, and then I press on to see Annette one more time. Now, in the moment, I did not really remember what items were around the area and what I really wanted to take with me into the final phase of the game. It is going to be a little bit more obvious as I'm wandering around the arena, kind of not certain about what I'm looking for, just kind of looking. Like, I knew there was a bunch of handgun ammo, probably some shotgun ammo, and I knew there were some flash grenades and a hand grenade. But other than that, in the moment, I really couldn't remember what else there was, so I was taking my time to make sure I did not miss anything. And while having some additional handgun ammo or shotgun ammo would have been nice, I was mostly looking for the flash grenades. And if I had the inventory space, I would also want the hand grenade. So really, the grenades were the most important things I was looking for around the arena. And that's because they are going to be absolutely super important for the final boss battle of the game for Leon. Having a good collection of the flash grenades and the hand grenades makes that final boss for Leon just so much easier. And we are about to have some rapid fire cutscenes where Leon takes the elevator to go talk to Annette for the final time, then eventually he's going to reunite with Ada, and then he is going to take the elevator down further into Nest for the evacuation sequence, and he gets to talk to Claire for a moment. So yeah, there are a bunch of cutscenes coming up, so you're probably not going to hear from me too much.
Jesus. That looks bad.
Feels worse. Believe me.
Look about what you said. I don't know how much I believe.
Just tell me you'll destroy that G sample.
No, it's evidence. It's going to the FBI.
You trust that bitch?
What's that supposed to mean?
She's not FBI. She's a mercenary. She's gonna sell it. The G-Virus is gonna go to the highest bidder.
That's bullshit.
I hope you're right. But if the G-Virus gets into the wrong hands...
Okay, we have one more cutscene to go before the timer begins. After that, the elevator will be accessible for us. We'll be able to ride that all the way down to the bottom of Nest, and we will begin searching for our way out of this facility so we do not get blown up with the self-destruct sequence. It is going to be a pretty exciting photo finish for Leon as we try to make it to the very end. Let's go ahead and say goodbye to Ada.
I was just thinking about you.
That makes two of us. I was getting worried.
No, we make a good team. I gotta ask you something.
Way's clear. Please, tell me you got it.
Oh, I got it.
Let me verify the G sample when we get the hell out of here.
Before we do that, I ran into Annette. She claims you're not FBI.
Oh, Leon. Why couldn't you just hand over the sample?
Because I realized, as much as I wanted to trust you, I didn't.
I really hoped it wouldn't end up like this.
So that's all this was. I was just some pawn to you?
Look, I'm just doing my job.
And I'm doing mine, so drop that damn gun! I'm taking you in.
Hand over the sample, Leon. I don't want to hurt you.
And you shoot me. But I don't think you can.
Take care of yourself, Leon.
No!
And now the timer has begun. We have 10 minutes to get out of here. Well, not really 10 minutes. There's actually a gimmick I want to show off in this playthrough that allows us to kind of give ourselves a little bit more time. And it is going to involve utilizing my final save of the game. But yeah, I'm going to be riding this elevator all the way down to the bottom, and then there's going to be a transmission that takes place between Leon and Claire, letting Leon know that Claire is still alive and she found Sherry, and they may have a way out of Nest. And then it is up to Leon to try and find them and reunite and get out of there with them. But yeah, that save point gimmick is going to be kind of interesting because I don't think I got to show it off whenever I was doing the long playthrough. and I don't really need to utilize it to get more time in this playthrough either, but I feel like showing it off now because if I don't do it now, I may not get the opportunity or I might just forget. Oh yeah, there's also some first aid spray here right as you get out of the elevator, and I'm definitely taking that. I'll go ahead and ditch the combat knife just to make room for it. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk to Claire, and then I'll show you exactly what I am talking about.
What's that? Claire!
Leon? You're down here too!
Yeah, but the whole place is coming down. Listen to me. You need to get out. Fast.
Yeah. There's a way out. We can make it. Where are you now?
Claire, are you still there?
Leon? Hey, Leon, you're breaking up.
Forget about me. Just get out of here. Damn it.
Alright, the clock is continuing to tick down and we exit this little media room to find there is going to be a storage chest and another typewriter for a saving point. I intend to use both. So while I am handling my second to last bit of inventory management, I'll go ahead and explain my little time save trick that I was talking about a moment ago. Don't worry about spending too much time doing your inventory management, just getting started here at the very top of your evacuation sequence. And the reason I say not to worry about that too much is because whenever you save the game here at this point with the timer counting down, you can exit the game and reload from this save point and return here, and you're going to have more time on the countdown clock than you did whenever you left the game initially. And just as an example, whenever I go to save, there was 8 minutes and 37 seconds left on the countdown clock. And after I get done saving, I exit the game and reload it, so I start off at that save point one more time. And whenever it gets done loading and brings me back into my game, I return to the evacuation point, and the timer is back up to 9 minutes. So yeah, it only really saves me 20 seconds in this situation, but if you wasted a little bit of time getting out of the media room, going through your inventory, figuring out all that stuff, you could use that trick to give yourself a little bit more time and bring yourself back up to 9 minutes. Alright, time for the final run to the finish line. We ride the elevator all the way down where we find a bunch of plant people rising up from the ground. If I were playing as Claire, I could just run right by them, but because I'm Leon, I do have to shoot them and stun them, and then I can run by them. So it is not bad, but Leon still requires a little bit more effort. But I get past the plant people and exit to the next room where I get to a ladder and climb all the way down. And once I try running over to the next door to exit out to the next area, I am greeted by a familiar face.
Is this a fucking joke?
I should say that shooting at Mr.X served absolutely no purpose in this playthrough. I was just doing it to screw around for the hell of it, and it resulted in me getting punched in the back of the head and knocked into red health and nearly dying. So, yeah, don't be like me. I was just trying to goof around for the hell of it for a little bit of a laugh, and it nearly cost me and made me have to reload.
Keep going!
And alright, we managed to get away from Mr.X one more time, and now for the final piece of inventory management of the game. I know Nest has been overloaded with my scenes of having to do inventory management at storage boxes, but it's finally coming to a conclusion. And speaking of coming to a conclusion, just beyond the storage box and on the elevator, we'll be facing off against the final boss of Leon's Scenario 1. After that, we will be pressing on to the train where we can find Claire and Sherry, and then we're going to ride that all the way to freedom away from Nest. But we have to earn that first, we still have to win the fight. Let's go ahead and get that kicked off. I am just now wrapping up my final decisions on the storage box. After that, I leave it. I go ahead and go into my inventory and I use one of the green, red, blue herbs. That way I'm back to full health with damage resistance that I'm going to need here very shortly. It also creates enough inventory space for me to go ahead and pick up the joint plug that I'm going to need in order to activate the elevator. So with all of that in hand, let's go ahead and get this fight started. Alright, time for a fairly unique final fight. We need to stagger Mr. X at least 3 times. When we do that, we reduce the amount of time it takes to complete this fight as much as we possibly can. After doing that, we just need to survive for, I believe, 60 to 90 seconds. It does not matter how much we damage him within that time, we just have to survive. In order to help do that, we are going to be stunning Mr. X with the hand grenades, the flash grenades, and the occasional shotgun shell. We're just trying to halt his progress and stall out that timer. And I'm going to heal every time I need to and try to avoid running out of all those items and dying in 90 seconds, which would be just truly tragic. After that 90 seconds, we're going to get an assist, and someone's going to toss us down a weapon we can actually use to defeat Mr. X, because nothing we have right now can kill him. At best, we can slow him down. And while I'm trying to survive against Mr. X, I'm also looking out for his ultimate attack, which he does right after doing a big Mr. X roar. When you see that roar happening, you need to start shooting Mr. X in his chest, because he's going to charge at you, and if you do not shoot him in the chest enough times, or do enough damage, he will impale you with his claw arm and kill you instantly. If you do enough damage, you will stagger him again, and it will stop his ultimate attack.
We'll call it even.
And just like that, we survived just long enough to get the rocket launcher. We have 4 rockets to shoot, and it will take 2 to kill Mr. X in this hardest difficulty. Let's finish off the boss and hold on to those 2 rockets. We are going to be using those to finish off our run to freedom. So yeah, our first 2 shots with the rocket launcher end up taking out the upper half of Mr. X, basically giving him the Elliot treatment from the beginning of the game. And now I'm running off the platform elevator to the exit. A bunch of zombies start coming through a door. I use the rockets on them, and with one big explosion, all the threats are gone, and it's finally time to see the final cutscene and see the credits roll.
Gotta get out of here.
Can't believe I actually miss her. Hey. We made it.
Just like I said we would.
And that is it. On hardcore difficulty, I have defeated the game using Leon in the very first scenario. At the very end of the credits, we will get to see exactly what my time was, how many saves it took, and what my final ranking is going to be. which I can already tell you, it's definitely below 2.5 hours. I saved exactly 3 times, and I will have the S+ ranking. So yeah, this one was a lot of fun for me, and I definitely enjoyed talking through this one a lot more than the long playthrough. Granted, the long playthrough had its advantages as well, like going through all the journals. That had the benefit of really building up the story of Resident Evil 2, but from just a gameplay perspective, this was a lot more interesting because I got to talk about all the little decision making that I had to do in order to get this to work. Like, what was the purpose behind every little thing I did in order to cut down time, to get to certain save points, to have all the weapons I needed to for certain boss battles, and all that good stuff. And I really enjoyed just getting to break all of that down. And it is a little bit different per character for each scenario, so whenever I do move on to Claire, or even if I stick with Leon for the second scenario, the decision making is always just a little bit different, and you have to come up with different strategies in order to make things as easy on yourself and make getting that S+ rank as likely as possible. So yeah, I got to really have some fun with this one, explaining all the little ways I made this as efficient as I could, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Not really sure what it's going to be yet. I'm leaning towards Claire Scenario 2, that way I've covered all the scenarios in one way or another, because in the long playthrough I did Claire Scenario 1, and then I did Leon Scenario 2, and I just completed Leon Scenario 1, so the only one I have not done is Claire Scenario 2, so yeah, I think that's the one I'm going to do next. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up and see what the final time is. And there it is, I managed to beat the game in 2 hours and 7 minutes. Not bad at all for a Scenario 1. And I did in fact get that S+ ranking like I predicted, so that is 1 down, 3 to go. Thank you for watching this video covering Leon Scenario 1 for the Resident Evil 2 remake. Getting the S+ rank on hardcore difficulty was fun, but we are definitely not done. If you found this interesting, feel free to check out the other things I have on the Thor's Entertainment channel. I do have plenty of other Resident Evil related things going on right now. So if you enjoyed this, maybe you'll enjoy those as well. I also have playthroughs of other video games too. If that seems like something that'd be interesting to you, just check out all the gameplay and see what sticks out for you. But yeah, thank you again for watching, take care, and hopefully I will see you again next time.